All right, Mr. Stewart, you ready to go? Mr. Gordon, good, ready to go? Okay. All right, this is our community's house. We are all guests in it here to serve our community. My name is Mike Little, Mayor for the District of North Vancouver, and the pleasure falls to me to welcome you all here to our regular meeting of council for Monday, September 11th at 7 o'clock. To start this meeting in a good way, we respectfully acknowledge the original peoples of these lands and waters, specifically the Tsleil-Waututh, Squamish, and Musqueam, on whose unceded ancestral lands the District of North Vancouver is located. We value the opportunity to learn, share, and serve our community on these unceded lands. Council, we have an agenda that's been circulated. Are there any errors or omissions from the agenda as presented? Hearing none, will someone move adoption of the agenda? Moved by Councillor Ma, second by Councillor Forbes. Call the question. All in favor? Contrary minded? Motion carries. Council, we have several sets of meeting minutes that have been circulated with the package. This is for June 19th, July 10th, and July 24th. Are there any errors or omissions from those minutes as presented? Hearing none, will somebody please move adoption of the minutes? Moved by Councillor Back, second by Councillor Ma. I'll call the question. All in favor? Contrary minded? Motion is carried. Thank you very much, Council. Apologies for the slightly late start. We had a meeting beforehand that went a little bit long, and so sorry that we're a little bit late getting started. Just wanted to comment on tonight's agenda. So we preserve a period of up to 30 minutes at the front end of every regular meeting of council for public input, for members of the community to raise issues of concern for them to the council. We have a sign-up list that gets sent around beforehand, so people can comment. They can ask to sign up directly to the clerk's department in advance of the meeting. And so we do have a list of people who have identified that they wish to speak. Priority is given to those speaking on items that are up for consideration for this evening's meeting. And so I have a list of people who have already signed up to speak. We normally give people about 3 minutes to speak. We have 12 speakers. I think we can probably get through 12 speakers, but anybody who doesn't use their full 3 minutes will definitely make sure that that gets carried forward. So at this point, I'm going to call up the virtual participants. Aleem Kanji and David Nam will be the second speaker. I also like to say at the beginning of these meetings that this meeting is being held in a hybrid format, which means that members of the council, the public, and our staff can participate in the meeting either here in person or virtually through the Zoom system that we have set up here as well. So at this point, I'm going to go to Aleem Kanji and welcome. You have 3 minutes to address the council.
Well, good evening, Your Worship, members of council. Just want to make sure everyone can hear and see me okay.
Yeah, I think we're going to bump your volume up just a little bit higher, but we can definitely see you. Why don't we try again? Go ahead.
Thank you. Good evening, Your Worship and members of council. My name is Aleem Kanji, and I am the Chief Advocacy Officer of the Canadian National Fireworks Association, where I represent our over 3,000 members, including several right here in North Vancouver. My apologies for not being with you in person tonight. We advocate to governments across the country, and we work with industry and public sector partners as the leading voice on behalf of the federally regulated and very legally permissible fireworks industry, 4,000 products of which are strenuously tested and approved for consumer use by our federal government's Canadian Explosives Research Laboratory. Now, the report before you today proposes a ban on the sale and use of fireworks in North Vancouver. By doing so, let me be clear, I think as elected officials and public officials, you're willingly creating an unsafe environment by creating an underground marketplace from a very legal and highly regulated market. Your residents will continue to seek out fireworks in other cities or online, delivered right to their door to celebrate their events or other cultural special occasions. As Mayor Little has put it publicly, fireworks are a beloved cultural activity in this community. The report in front of you correctly states that enforcement of fireworks has been challenging, and staff often arrive after calls have been made, which raises the question, as a city home to 90,000 residents, why is an unenforceable ban in a city with bylaw officers that will not be able to keep up being pursued? The report before you cites a survey of 151 people that support a ban. This is hardly reflective of this entire community. The report also cites single-digit firework incidents for the past 10 years. As the chief would know, candles have an exponentially higher incident rate, but there is no suggestion here to ban candles. Enforcing a ban on fireworks raises multiple questions and will not be able to be enforced. There is no plan to check people, their homes, and conduct random checks of North Vancouver residents. The report before you also states that the BC Association of Fire Chiefs supported a ban, but as the fire chief in your city would know, this was actually turned down when it went forward to the federal government. And put quite simply, governments cannot ban products that are quite legal and regulated. It is in the best interest, in our view, for North Vancouver residents and for your community to regulate and license the use and sale of fireworks, just as other communities are doing across this country. And experiencing non-enforceable bans will cause greater community frustration as compared to when a ban did not exist. We ask that this report be deferred in favor of industry and community consultation. The Canadian National Fireworks Association stands ready to work with city officials and your staff to support regulations as we do in other countries. I'd be happy to take your questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your presentation. Okay, the next speaker that we have is David Nam, followed by Dale. David Nam is joining us virtually here. David Nam, can you hear me? I can't hear you.
Is that better? Can you hear me?
I can hear you, yes.
Okay. All right.
Go ahead, welcome. You have 3 minutes to address the council.
Good evening. My name is David Nam, and I work in the fireworks industry. I'd like to speak against banning fireworks. Fireworks is a tradition for many cultures, and banning fireworks, which are not nationally banned, will ultimately hurt local businesses and local workers. As your report noted, internet sales of fireworks are increasing. Banning fireworks will only help increase sales for internet suppliers and illegal vendors. Consumers will ultimately find another way to source fireworks and set them off, and council will likely be at the same place where we are today. Banning fireworks is not the solution. Education on the safe use of fireworks is the solution. I believe a positive change that works for all stakeholders could be made, and that's probably education and public awareness campaigns. That concludes my speech. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much for your comments, David Nam. The next speaker I have is Dale, followed by Jordy. Oh, you're gonna have to help me with the last name. Snowyer. So I'm gonna go to Dale. Is Dale joining us in person here or virtually? Just checking with the clerks. Do we have a name that, there we go, virtual, okay. I see a Dale joined us virtually in the meeting. Dale, can you hear me?
Yes, hi there.
Welcome.
Hi, thank you. Okay. Okay, hi, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. You have 3 minutes to address the council.
Okay, perfect. I will try to be as quick as I can. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'd just like to first off start by saying my name is Dale George and I come from Tsleil-Waututh Nation. And my partner and I have been owning and running and operating big rig fireworks for the last few years now. But fireworks has always been in my life since I was a little girl. And today I come before you to emphasize the importance of preserving the tradition of celebrating with fireworks in North Vancouver. Fireworks have long held a special place in our hearts, symbolizing moments of joy, unity, and cultural significance. It is crucial that we recognize and respect this tradition, as many other communities have done by adding legal days for fireworks to celebrate their own cultural heritage. First and foremost, fireworks are more than just a dazzling display of colors. They are an integral part of our shared history and culture. Generations of North Vancouver residents have come together to celebrate various occasions with these mesmerizing displays. These traditions connect us to our past, reminding us of the moments when we celebrated milestones, cultural events, and national holidays with grand fireworks shows lighting up the night sky. We must also acknowledge that the District of North Vancouver is not alone in its commitment to preserving this tradition. Across the globe, numerous communities have recognized the cultural and historical significance of fireworks, leading them to incorporate legal days for their use. This is not about simply allowing fireworks without restraint, but about designating specific days or events when we can come together as a community and continue to enjoy this age-old tradition safely and responsibly. For example, many cities have added legal days for fireworks during cultural celebrations. These events showcase the diverse tapestry of our society and serve as a means to educate, entertain, and bring people together. By legalizing fireworks on these specific occasions, we not only honor our traditions, but also promote understanding and appreciation of different cultures within our community. In conclusion, I urge you to consider the importance of preserving the tradition of fireworks in the District of North Vancouver. By doing so, we not only uphold our rich cultural heritage, but also contribute to the sense of unity and diversity that defines our community. Let us follow the example of other communities that have wisely chosen to add legal days for fireworks during cultural celebrations. Together, we can ensure that our traditions continue to light up our lives and bring us closer as a community. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you for your comments, Dale George. The next speaker I have is Jordy Snoyer, followed by Bill Reno. Apologies, Jordy, if I've got the last name wrong. Jordy's joining us virtually as well, but it still says you're muted.
Seconds.
There we go.
Can you actually see and actually hear me okay there?
I can see and hear you clearly. Welcome. You have 3 minutes to address the council.
Okay, thanks so much. Dear Honorable Mayor and members of City Council, my name is George Snoyer. I'm speaking as a concerned previous Vancouver resident, and I'm a member and subscriber of the Canadian Fireworks Association to express my deep reservations regarding the recent fireworks ban outlined in Amendment Bylaw 8640. I kindly request that you reconsider this decision. Fireworks have been an integral part of our cultural celebrations and traditions, bringing joy and sense of togetherness to our community. They symbolize the freedom and responsibility of individuals to partake in cultural festivities in their own way. However, with the implementation of this ban, we risk taking away a cherished source of enjoyment and bonding for our residents. In a world where life is becoming increasingly challenging and demanding, these moments of celebration and connection hold even more importance. Removing fireworks from our cultural fabric may inadvertently add to the hardships that many people are facing. Furthermore, the Halloween fireworks have become a global cultural attraction, drawing visitors from all over the world to experience the unique charm of our city. Restricting this tradition could potentially make North Vancouver less appealing to both residents and tourists, and could result in our city becoming less vibrant. I urge you to reconsider the fireworks ban and explore alternative solutions that balance safety concerns with our cultural traditions and the well-being of our community. Finding this balance is essential to preserving the unique spirit of North Vancouver that we all hold dear. I thank you very much for your time and attention. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, Jordy Snoyer. The next speaker I have is Bill Reno, followed by Sarabjit Singh. Bill Reno joining us here in person. Welcome. Welcome. You have 3 minutes to address the council.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and esteemed members of council. My name is Bill Reno. I'm the General Manager of Miskel Distributing Company, a leading importer and distributor of fireworks. Tonight, I come before you not merely as a businessman, but as a custodian of tradition, a believer in inclusivity, and an advocate for preserving the rich culture that defines our great nation. Our company's mission extends beyond the realm of commerce. We are dedicated to serving retailers across our diverse nation. Many of these retailers, as you well know, are small businesses that eagerly embrace seasonal products like fireworks. These retailers represent the myriad of cultures that Canada proudly welcomes. These are people who have come to Canada from various corners of the globe, seeking a better life for themselves and their families. In their journey to become Canadians, they have firmly planted their roots, nurtured their families, and built thriving businesses. They have also recognized the significance of Canadian traditions and have wholeheartedly adopted them as their own. This integration is a testament to the richness of our country. Fireworks are an integral part of the Canadian tradition, from the bright celebrations of Victoria Day in the East to the nationwide jubilation of Canada Day, and even the spirited festivities of Halloween in the West. Fireworks have a special place in our hearts. Removing this cherished tradition would be akin to stripping away Christmas trees during Christmas holiday season. Let me share a heartening example from this year. London, Ontario, and Saskatoon, Saskatchewan both took a commendable step by adding Diwali and Lunar New Year to their list of recognized celebrations. These traditional holidays, cherished by our community, are now part of the cultural celebrations. Rather than banning fireworks, these communities chose to embrace the traditions of their people, enriching our collective identity. I'm proud to say Canada is one of the most multicultural countries in the world. In this spirit, I humbly request that North Vancouver continue to embrace and uphold the traditions of Halloween, keeping fireworks alive for the benefit of our community. Let us celebrate our shared cultural heritage, recognizing that tradition are the threads that weave us into a stronger, more harmonious society. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, Bill Reno. The next speaker I have is Sarbjeet Singh, followed by William Poirier. Sarbjeet Singh, can you hear me?
Yes, can you guys hear me?
Yes, I can. Welcome. You have 3 minutes to address the council.
Yes, my name is Sarbjeet Singh. I've been a fireworks vendor for over 30 years. And I've met a lot of great people in my life. And you know what? Fireworks is a tradition, not only to me, but to my family and to all my customers. And having that void will be deeply missed if you guys choose that path. And I'm just here to say that fireworks is needed. And also as well, fireworks is a tradition. And I'm a fireworks vendor. I have 2 children. And the way everything is right now with interest rates, with revenue, this is my livelihood. I also sell right across Canada. I live in North Delta, actually. And every year for Diwali, a lot of people are selling illegally in their garages and everywhere else that you can think of. And that's not the right way to approach things. The better way to approach it is to actually put in more stiffer regulations and bylaws and reinforce those so it'll be a lot more funner and safer for everybody. And when you got a population of 40,000 in North Van, and maybe you got, from what I see about the statistics, you got about 100 to 150 complaints. Well, there's like 40,000 people approximately, and they have no complaints about it. And West Vancouver, they also like their fireworks. And you know what? I'm just like really upset, disappointed, sad that everyone has taken this route just to simply ban them. I don't think that's the right solution. Like my fellow colleagues and vendors have said, that's not the right way to go. And please reconsider. And you know what? Surrey is also reconsidering making Diwali an actual real religious kind of event, because just like Chinese New Year, there's always Chinese New Year's and firecrackers getting lit off. And you know what? Why does Halloween have to be gone? I don't believe in that. There's better ways of doing things. And thank you.
Thank you for your comments, Sarbjeet Singh. The next speaker I have is William Poirier. Is William joining us online? I don't see a name that reflects that. You just double check. So is someone here, did they sign up with the name William Poirier? Okay. I can circle back again at the end of the list, but I'm going to move on to Marilyn Harkness, followed by Anthea Yo. Marilyn Harkness joining us here in person. Welcome.
Thank you.
When you're ready, you have
Sorry,
3 minutes to address the council.
Thank you, Mayor Mike Little and council members. It would appear there is something rotten in the district of North Vancouver. The proposal put forth by the Lynn Valley Legion to build a very large complex comprised of a seniors care facility, residential facilities, child care facilities, kitchen gardens, a community kitchen, as well as their improved and larger Legion space is disingenuous. I would offer that this is just one more attempt by the Legion to build up their pub, this time under the guise of noble intentions. I do recognize that the Legion is an important part of the community and does many good things. The lengthy report by Wheeler and Crawford Architects is dated June 8th. The report to council by Councillor Catherine Pope is dated July 7th. The presentation to council was made at the meeting of July 24th. It should be noted that 2 of the 6 elected members of council were absent from this meeting. This was the last meeting of council prior to the recess for the summer. This presentation was requesting expediting of the project and removing the necessity of public input as well as rezoning and OCP amendments. The report also makes reference to Vancouver Coastal Health being interested in the possibility of funding and or operating some of this facility. One would have to assume that this negotiation was prior to the making of the Legion's PowerPoint presentation. This PowerPoint document indicates that the detailed submission was being prepared in April of 2023. It is now almost the middle of September. As pointed out by Mayor Little on July 24th and in the staff report of August 23, neither an application nor an anticipated application submission date has been received by the district. However, not a single letter of information, notice of intention, nor any kind of polite communication has been offered or distributed to the neighbors with respect to this massive development of mixed use in the midst of a residential neighborhood, which is 1 kilometer outside of the town center area. The length of time this proposal has been in development and the lack of any information having been provided to the neighborhood speaks volumes of the total lack of respect given to them. The request for the abandonment of the proper and necessary procedures prefers a blatant abuse of democracy. I only briefly touch on some of the many cons of this proposed development. The intrusion of height issues up to 3 stories above existing roof lines, noise issues, traffic issues on the surrounding homes is egregious. I would ask that council take a hard stance against the request for rushing this project along and not be swayed by the dog and pony show. Thank you. And I am a neighbor of the Legion, and I resent that this is not their first attempt at not informing the public. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, Marilyn Harkness. I understand that we have connected with William Poirier, and can you hear me? I can't hear you. You are not muted. Maybe try again. I know they were experiencing some technical difficulty. Oh, I can try again.
Hello, can you
there,
guys
now
hear me?
you're unmuted. There you go. Now I can hear you. Welcome.
Okay, sorry, I did not know I had to join as a panelist. Okay, my name is William Poirier. I just have a few things to say. So me and my partner Dale George there, we are owners of the Big Rig Fireworks. And hold on, I got something here that I wrote down here. Okay, so we will be speaking up for the tradition we have done for years. All the happy faces we have seen for kids to parents, the one time a year we as a community get together and enjoy no fun. Hold on one second there, sorry about that. My phone's acting up here. Okay, so let me just, I was gonna read something here, but I'm not gonna read it. I'm just gonna go for it here. So people need more knowledge on fireworks, not just ban them. We need to follow other cities and provinces and add more days for them, like Diwali, Chinese New Year's. People need to, sorry about that. Sorry, the reason why we're not there in person, I had we had a bad flu in our house, and on some serious what's called Tylenol. Hold on, my phone's on. Yeah, my phone's acting up here.
Still having some technical,
Yeah, my phone keeps cutting in and out here.
Why don't we come back?
We
Very
can
sorry
hear
about
you
that, guys.
clearly. I think we get your point. I mean, Dale George presented your
She's
shared
a lot
view
better.
quite well.
She's a lot better at her words than I am. I'm just saying, my dad, my family, we've all done this for a tradition, and we'd hate to see this tradition leave. Even during COVID, it brought all the community members together. There was lots of smiles and happy faces, and COVID was a bad thing for all of us. And I just hate to see it leave. But thank you for hearing me out.
You did really good.
Thank you very much thank you for your comments, William Poirier. The next speaker that I have is Anthea Yo, followed by Susan Adrian. And Anthea Yo is joining us here in person. Welcome. When you're comfortable, you have 3 minutes to address the council.
Yes, fine. Well, Mayor and Council, I'm here again for things, the Deep Cove issues in general. In my opinion, the engineering, design, and bid overseeing department should be held accountable for this disastrous summer of discontent that Deep Cove has endured. The overall design, employing narrow pavers with 7 colors, all equaling a dull gray, has led to a labor-intensive project, resulting in a massive high decibel cutting and a resultant finish with multiple tripping hazards, not to speak of the unsuitable surface for parking in the long run. We are already seeing crushed pavers. A simple stamped concrete or concrete with insert features would not only have reduced the time by a couple of months, but would have avoided the contortion cutting to accommodate all the obstacles, access points, bollard bases, signs, etc. The bid choice was lightweight, the sub-trades even lighter. One crew employed was using day labor stunt double. Any fines collected from these delays should be given to the merchants who have experienced 40% losses, having barely, well, not even got over the COVID problems, and will be severely affected during the winter to keep open. If there are no fines, which I doubt, some compensation should be entertained. The design of the rain gardens is a disaster in the making, as the sediment pools now have 2+ dirty water fill, with not only an eyesore, a mosquito heaven, and a toddler hazard. The best solution is a quick fill with river rock to reduce the standing water. If you just cut a channel, there'll be an empty concrete square. There's also one tree planted right under the branches of an existing large tree near the gallery. That makes no sense. I suggest you replace it with a nice flowering bush that will grow and allow the tree to still be there. The bollard, the large dome drains in the rain gardens are so low in comparison to the soil levels that a heavy downpour will result in soil and likely the smaller plants going down. The small band of river rock will be no deterrent, and the grids are large. The bollard placements at the turnaround make absolutely no sense and are not only irregularly spaced, terrible eyesore, but 2 bases, if not 3, are right in the circle travel lanes, which you intended to be drop-off points. A nice feature totem pole in the center of that circle would have been an asset for tourists and a wonderful photo op with the backdrop of Indian Arm. We have pleaded for hanging baskets for decades, and the excuse was always no water supply yet. When I observed the irrigation rough-in, there was no accommodation for water terminus. I texted the mayor about the timing to get it done before it was too late. The detour asphalt surface should not be removed. Increasingly, residents have become aware of its value in emergencies, fire, and anything that could obstruct the ingress and egress to the center area. This costs taxpayers money to install and has a future value.
We're past your time. If you could draw to a close, I'd appreciate that.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, we've just had a heck of a time in the Cove, and I'd like you to remove the livable deep cove signs.
Thank you very much. The next speaker I have is Susan Adrian, followed by Farima Shemirani. And so Susan Adrian joining us here in person. Welcome. You have 3 minutes to address the council.
Thank you. There's a significant problem with the way Delbrook Community Center allocates the use of its pottery studio. I have had meetings with 3 senior staff at the center to resolve the issue. However, nothing has changed. So I am bringing this issue to your attention and hope that a solution can be found. Delbrook Community Center has a roomy, well-equipped pottery studio. Like many other programs at Delbrook, pottery memberships are available. Members get exclusive use of the studio for 60 hours a week. The problem is there are only 30 pottery studio memberships available at any one time, and there are currently 100 people on the membership waiting list. The only way non-members can use the studio is by enrolling in a pottery class. Classes, however, are expensive and fill quickly. Non-members pay $11 an hour for classes. Members pay 32 cents an hour for exclusive studio use. Delbrook does not monitor studio usage during member-only hours each week, so they have no idea how many members use the studio and/or how often they use it. I did an unofficial audit of usage and found that 4 out of 5 times I went by the studio, it was empty. When it was in use, I never saw more than 3 people there. Furthermore, many of the pottery studio members are commercial potters, using the studio's tools, equipment, supplies, and kilns to make things they sell. When I mentioned that commercial potters were using district resources to run a business, staff told me they had heard that, but didn't know how to find out if that were true or not. The solution to this problem is simple. West Vancouver's Glen Eagles Community Center Pottery Studio provides the blueprint. At that studio, there are an unlimited number of memberships available. Members sign up to use the facility week by week, just as one signs up for other drop-in programs. This ensures that everyone who wants access to the studio has access. It also ensures that the studio is being fully utilized. The Delbrook studio is seriously underutilized while the community is seriously underserved. It's time to put a stop to this wasteful and inefficient use of a valuable community asset and return it to the community. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Okay, the next speaker I have is Farima Shemirani, followed by Arash Mamarzadeh. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for this opportunity to present my issue. I'm the resident of 2330 Kirkstone Road in the Valley area. I have been a resident and property owner of the district for over 30 years now, and living at the current address for the last 20 years, paying $7,500 property tax. A few years ago, the district initiated the expansion of the bike lane in Dean Valley, which resulted in the destruction of several beautiful cedar trees surrounding my property. As you can imagine, we were devastated by the loss of these trees, but the district assured us that they would be replacing the trees and would provide ongoing maintenance. While I was supportive of the district's investment in an initiative fostering healthier and environmentally friendly alternatives to transit, I'm shocked and disappointed that I am here today, a few years after, to highlight to you all that there has been zero regard for the commitment to maintenance that was made as part of the restoration of the destroyed trees. I have been in contact with the district for the last 3 months, been passed by to different people saying you need to talk to this person, that person, and passing it on and telling me that we don't have the budget to replace these trees or maintain them. Specifically at a time when it is paramount for us to do everything in our power to conserve what's left of our greenery and strive toward ensuring clean air for ourselves and the generations to come, I am pleading with you today to please designate urgency and priority in replacing the dead trees due to the district negligence and to implement a sustainable maintenance plan that the district will be able to commit to. Thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you very much for your comments, Farima Shamarani. The next speaker I have is Arash Mamarzadeh. And as we've gone over time on this, Arash Mamarzadeh will be the final speaker. So welcome. You have 3 minutes to address the council when you're comfortable.
Thank you. Also, credit to you for nailing my last name on the first try. I have to commend him for that. It's a rare
I think
sight.
it makes me about 30% on tonight. So.
Hey, great job. Honorable Mayor Little, council members, I am Arash Mamarzadeh. I'm also joined by Alistair Knox, representing the Deep Cove Merchant Association. We're grateful for the opportunity to speak to you tonight on regards to the ongoing Livable Deep Cove project. We want to start off by acknowledging our support for this project. We collectively voted for this project along with fellow members of council. However, as the project extended past its expected June completion date, we observed a lack of accountability from the district concerning the disruption it has caused for our local businesses and local residents. As of September 11th, the project remains unfinished. In late 2022, district representatives secured a federal grant of $3.3 million to revitalize Deep Cove. Despite having secured this money in funding, the project was awarded to a $2.7 million bid. The 3 subsequent bids were $3.4, $3.9, and $4.4 million, leaving $600,000 in federal funding unutilized and unaccounted for. The collective loss from the merchant side largely exceeds the $600,000 saved from accepting said bid. There is also a clear understanding that the project should not extend beyond the mid-June point to prevent impact on our crucial summer revenues. Unfortunately, this agreed upon timeline was not only disregarded, but also compounded by the absence of district representatives during the months of July and August. This was a gross misrepresentation of local government. The district came to us seeking the Merchants Association's approval. We granted a letter in principle outlining our #1 boundary, timeline of completion, as we are all seasonal businesses. Seasonal villages, such as Deep Cove, make revenue 5 months out of the year, which is something that I feel continues to be not fully understood by the district. They left us with a sporadically updated website on the district North Vancouver website that merely promised completion at 2-week intervals. Such inaction by our local representatives left many residents and merchants feeling abandoned. The outcomes of the project so far include a massive loss of our 2023 summer revenues and an undue focus on a single street while neglecting to install and improve vital facilities essential for Deep Cove's future as a top destination for visitors and residents from the Lower Mainland. We'd like to outline some of our future expectations for the council and district. a comprehensive review of the project, including design and engineering implementation, hand in hand with local and merchant feedback and perspectives. The district should allocate resources to ensure the project's effective completion, address oversights noted by council members and merchants during their visits to Deep Cove, and tackle the financial strains left behind to be dealt with by our merchants. And lastly, we implore a higher standard of action and accountability toward our local communities. Improved communication along with transparent information sharing is essential, regardless of local population's reaction to that information. Thank you very much. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Now, I believe you emailed us ahead of time, but if you want to leave the text, you don't have it printed.
I can leave my laptop. Just give it back by Canucks students.
If you share it with us, we'll make sure your comments from your speech are again circulated to the
Thank you
council.
so much for your time.
Thank you very much. Okay, council, I'm going to return back to the regular agenda at this point, and we do have a recognition that we'd like to make this evening. And so I just had some initial comments here. I'm very pleased to be announcing the recipients of this year's Centennial Bursary Awards. This bursary is from a trust fund that was endowed in 1958 to commemorate the centennial of the province of BC. It didn't actually become a province till 1871, but in 1858 it was a colony, we'll say. And these recent district high school graduates have distinguished themselves both academically and in our community. And at this time, I'd like to call up the participants who are here in person. So the first person will be Diana Dinesh Farr, which I believe, welcome. And that's okay. I'll just put the desk on. Yeah. I'm going to come right up there in just a moment.
And your mom can come down here and get a better.
Congratulations, great job. And so at this point, Diana Dinesh will receive some funds from the Centennial Bursary Fund to help continue their education going forward. So on behalf of the Council of the District of North Vancouver, congratulations. The next.
Do you want another picture with the mayor? Okay, come back. It's okay. He's very tall, but he's not. There you go.
Thank you very much.
I look like a bit of an ogre in some of these photos. No way around that. The next.
Sorry. Well, you know.
The next award recipient who's here tonight is Soraya Salehi. Welcome. Come on up. Good job.
Well done. We don't want you in the front.
And the remaining recipients, many of them have already started their studies at other institutions and not necessarily available at this time. And so I would like to at least read their name into the record. So the remaining receivers, this is Kalina Aram, Luke Bradley, Max Cameron, Scarlett Clark, Solana Cooper, Leo Cormier, Owen Cree, Marcus Jacobson, Jacob Kotai, Marley McKay, and Snezana Melnick. Are any of them here this evening? Okay, well, on behalf of the Council for the District of North Vancouver, congratulations on this very significant achievement. I wish that the community, this group feels our community's support for them as they continue their education and studies in the community. So congratulations to everybody. All right, moving on with the agenda this evening, the first item up for discussion is item 8.1. This is development permit 34.21 for 2932 Chesterfield Avenue. Do we have comment from Yan Zhang from staff? Welcome.
Yes, Your Worship. I will just make a brief introduction. So this is essentially a reissue of a development permit that was expired. Can you hear me?
Yes.
So the site was rezoned in 2018, development permit issued for the previous proposal in 2018 as well, and expired in 2020. So the applicant has to make another development permit application, which we're presenting for your consideration tonight. The proposal is substantially the same as the previous proposal, with the exception that some of the minor features have been upgraded to reflect on district policy in terms of parking, in terms of green building, accessibility, and bike parking. And so we have prepared a 2-slide presentation very quickly to go over the key elements of the development permit application. At your discretion, we can do that. And otherwise, we're here to answer questions. And I believe the applicant is also in the audience to answer questions.
Okay. Go ahead. You have a 2-slide presentation. Welcome. Go for it.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Good evening, Your Worship and members of council. My name is Taylor Jenks. I'm the planner on the application. To expand on what Ms. Sang noted, the site is located on the corner of West 29th Street and Chesterfield Avenue, approximately 1 block from District Hall, on the boundary with the city of North Vancouver, and it is currently host to an unoccupied house. Surrounding properties include detached houses to the west and north, a 55+ multifamily development to the east, and a multifamily development to the south in the city. The project proposes an overall FSR of 1.2, which is consistent with the OCP and existing comprehensive development zone. The units are located within 2 3-story buildings. All units are accessed at street level, with 2 from 29th Street and 2 from Chesterfield Avenue. There are minimal changes to the design of the proposal since the previous DP, with primary changes being updates to comply with the current district policies. In accordance with the CD zone, 2 parking spaces are provided for each unit in a shared parkade with access from 29th Street. The applicant has increased the bicycle parking beyond what is required in the CD zone to align with the updated bike parking policy. The proposal has been reviewed against the development permit area guidelines for form and character and energy and water conservation and greenhouse gas emission reduction, and generally comply with such. Notable highlights include the following. The buildings wrap the corner of Chesterfield and 29th Street and include multiple outdoor spaces, creating a connection to both street frontages. Landscaping has been incorporated around the perimeter of the site to blend with neighboring sites and enhance privacy. Accessible design features have been incorporated where feasible in Unit 1, and the project is built to step code level 3 with 0 fossil fuels. The project serves the intention as indicated in the OCP and acts as a transition between the adjacent single-family and multifamily properties. As the proposal is also compliant with existing CD zone and the development permit guidelines, staff are supportive of the project. The development permit is ready for your consideration this evening. And as Ms. Sang noted, the applicant team is available for questions as well.
Great. Thank you very much. Councillor Back, you have initial comment on the matter? Will you be supporting the issuance?
Yes, I'll move the staff recommendation.
No. Is there a seconder for the staff recommendation? Seconded by Councillor Ma. Councillor Back, your comments?
Thank you, Your Worship. I will be supporting the staff recommendation, noting that this site has already been rezoned. Very familiar with this particular property, which is very close to us here at District Hall. Going from 1 single-family home to 4 new townhomes, as I think is a step in the right direction in terms of creating some additional housing supply in this area of the community that does have multifamily within the same block. I appreciate the changes since the rezoning in terms of some of the additional green building measures, as well as the increase in the number of bike storage spaces, including 4 Class 2 bike storage spaces. Also appreciate that they've improved the accessibility of all the units having some accessible features. The only email that I read, someone who commented on the loss of the large tree that's currently on the property. It's a maple tree, I believe. It is quite a beautiful tree. I don't know if there's anything they can do to relocate it, but I do note that they are going to be replanting, I think it's 3 to 1 with the new development. So I am supportive of the staff recommendation.
Thank you. Seconder, Councillor Ma, your comments?
Thank you. I just want to start with a quick question. So this DP has been extended, I think the first time was from October 2018. And so my question is, with the housing situation the way it is, and we're trying to expedite, I just want to get an understanding why it's been 5 years.
Yes, through your worship. So the DP expired in 2020, and what has happened was that there's multiple factors. Basically, during the DP stage, the building permit stage, the stormwater management become an issue, and it's been taking a long time for them to resolve that issue at the building permit stage. And so in the meantime, the DP expired. And with the new submission, there's back and forth in terms of the groundwater management, the FCL, and then managing the high water table on the site. And so, and there's the applicant who's also in the audience also have some financing issues. And so this is a quite unusual case, in our experience. And what we have done so far is then we're looking at the stormwater management, the geotechnical issues way up ahead in the planning process. So we don't end up with, during the subsequent building permit stage, we're looking at the detailed design, which then create lots of churn in the processing.
Okay, thank you for that. I am supportive of the application. When I look at this, similar to Councillor Back, it's additional housing. I also note that there's, I believe there's no displacement of any tenants because it's vacant. And the proposal is consistent with OCP. 3-bedroom units, generally good for families. So I am supportive of this. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Just my own comments on the matter. I guess my question for staff would be, and I don't think it's the responsibility of this property to take this on, but the alienated property or the property that's left as a result of this in the middle of the block, could it still be developed in this type of fashion, or is there not enough left, therefore it's going to be largely a single family home going forward?
Yes, so there is one remnant lot between this site and then the multifamily development north, and there is also a lane in between. And so when that site come forward for development, we can look at a similar type of proposal for that site.
Okay. Thank you very much. I'll be supportive of the issuance. Any other, Councillor Murray.
Yeah, I was going to mention that single lot as well. Dwarfing compared to this at 4 stories. This is more comparable, not even to the one across the street in the city of North Vancouver, which sits at 3 stories, although depressed on the property. It's the neighboring multifamily property within the district that sits at 4 stories, but a significant number of more units. So I guess I'm having problems calling this a duplex. It's not really a duplex. It's like a multifamily building with very few units in it. It's certainly not going to contribute to affordable housing. The duplexes that look more like houses in the city of North Vancouver are well over $2 million, the new ones that have been built. So it's not going to contribute to affordable housing at any rate. And I just think the massing for a duplex is not in keeping with what one would consider a duplex. At 4 stories, I find it quite high. I'm not sure if staff have any comment in that regard. I'd be interested actually for staff to provide some information to us in regards to the city of North Vancouver's guidelines. They build a significant number of more duplexes than we do, quite successfully, and they're more in keeping with sort of the neighborhoods that they exist in. They look really like single family homes, but they offer 4 units, as does this. This seems very high. Can staff comment?
I think I just want to provide a clarification. This is actually a fourplex. So this is actually 4
But
units.
each unit has 4 units. Each building has 4 units in it. So there's 8, or each building has 2 units in it.
So 4 units.
Oh, so each building has 4 units.
Nope.
Each building has 2 units.
Two
So
units.
it's
Total-
a
total
total
of
of
four.
4plex.
Total.
Yeah, so each building is a duplex.
2
Really?
duplexes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's 4 units in each building?
Nope, there's 2 in each, 2 duplexes, correct,
Okay, so 2 duplexes, not 2 units.
correct.
Are you sure?
Yes.
It's kind of confusing
I'm looking right past you. I can see Yan saying she's
Okay.
agreeing, so that.
because
there
it
you go.
says consists of 4 units
Total of 4 units.
Yeah.
Correct, in 2 buildings.
in 2 buildings. So 4 in each building.
2 per
So it's
building.
a 4plex.
2 per building, total of 4.
Yeah, so I guess I look at that as like a duplex because I live in a duplex. I live in a duplex. There's me and then there's my next door neighbor and we're in one building,
Yes.
right? That's what this is.
No, I'm agreeing with you.
Yeah,
It's
so
2
it's-
duplexes.
Yeah, so it's, I just feel that based on that, the massing is very high. I just find it out of keeping with what duplex would be considered. And it looks more like an apartment building with very few units compared to a multifamily building, which is what the majority of buildings are in the area.
Great. Okay, Councillor Forbes, your comment?
Thank you, Your Worship. Just a couple questions. I too am concerned, like Councillor Ma mentioned, about the timing, because this actually came forward to the Design Review Board in 2016. So this is like 7 years and it lapsed. And now with Ms. Yang mentioning financial difficulties, we're in a housing crisis. And so has there been any discussions with the applicant about, I mean, I know they can't be held to it, but I'd hate to see this sit for another 2 years. So has there been any discussions with the applicant about how ready they are to get going on this project? That's one question.
Mr. Milburn.
Your worship, there are certainly holding costs with any property which acts as a disincentive to essentially retain a vacant undeveloped site. And so the applicant would have to continue to cover those retaining costs. That includes everything from taxes to site cleanup and so on. So that's kind of a baked in market incentive to develop in a timely way. However, market conditions are what they are, and the owner needs to respond to those. Given that the owner is coming forward with this application now, we do anticipate they're going to move forward in a timely way now. They anticipate market opportunity, and staff will be processing the application subject to council's approval tonight for building permit. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Milburn. Along with that, then I have just a question. I'm assuming, because it's not mentioned in here, we're talking about ownership townhouses. Is that correct?
Clarity on that, Ms. Zhang or Taylor Jenks?
Through your worship, that's correct. They will be strata units.
And
Mr.
again,
Milburn, additional comments?
Your worship, just to clarify, the land uses and tenure aren't being considered by council tonight. Those were considerations at the rezoning stage. The development permit is purely form and character and aesthetic consideration and whether or not it complies with council's guidelines for the aesthetic. The matters of land use and tenure have been already addressed, and the permit itself could not be refused for those reasons of land use and tenure, provided it currently complies with the zoning. Thank you.
I wasn't implying, I just wanted clarification on that.
Thank you.
Thank you. I just also had a slight concern about that the entrance into the projects comes off 29th. So I'm assuming that our staff in traffic has looked at this and it's not a problem. Is that correct? Anyone?
Through your worship, yes, our development servicing team, engineering team rather, looks at the classification of streets and chooses the lowest classification, and 29th was considered the most appropriate access.
I think those are, I would agree at first sight. I thought the massing was a bit high, but when you realize that there's 2 and 4, 4 and 2. Anyway, I'm fine with those answers, and thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I see no further speakers at this time. Prepared to call the question. All those in favor of issuance? Opposed?
Oh, I was in favor.
In favor? Okay, matter is carried unanimously. All right. Next item for discussion is item 8.2. This is the 2024 to 2027 taxation exemptions by council bylaw 8636 for 2023. And we have introductory comments from Mr. Daniluk.
Your worship, taxation exemptions are reviewed during this in council's term. There are minor changes under consideration in this bylaw, and Mr. Iorio, our manager of financial services, will have some introductory comments as well.
Welcome, Mr. Iorio.
Your worship, bylaw 8636, provided for council consideration, provides recommendations for permissive tax exemptions for the years 2024 to 2027 for 76 properties from 35 nonprofit agencies.
You're gonna have to go a little bit closer, shift your chair over, move right out of the way.
Please.
We'll start over. Your worship, bylaw 8636 provided for council consideration, provides recommendations for permissive tax exemptions for the years 2024 to 2027 for 76 properties from 35 agencies as reviewed by the members of the Community Services Advisory Committee. The agencies in this bylaw encompass services such as supported living, group homes, transitional housing, childcare, preschools, cultural, and educational-based resource centers.
Great. Okay, thank you very much. I'll be moving a staff recommendation. Is there a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Murray. Just my comments. This is obviously something that from time to time we have to address property tax exemptions on a variety of properties in the district. Largely, they have to prove the case that there is a very significant public benefit to the operations that they carry out on those properties, and because of that significant public benefit back to the community, we recognize that by giving an exemption on the property on which they operate. And so I will be supportive of the staff recommendation at this time. Councillor Murray, do you have additional comments? None. Would anybody else like to comment? Councillors Forbes and back. Councillor Forbes.
My only comment, thank you, Your Worship, was to thank.
Sorry, Councillor Forbes
Oh, I'm
first.
sorry.
Yeah, that's a Councillor Forbes.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just have a question. I'm aware that having the public time slots and advertising those time slots has been a condition, and that's what's happening again. But has there been any change in the amount of public time that the general public has at the tennis club? Or can you tell me what percentage?
Oh, okay. On the actual, at an operational level, what the public benefit specifically is
Yeah.
for a specific property.
Yeah.
We have that articulated, Mr. Daniluk or Mr. Iorio?
There is 10 hours allocated per week for non-member services at the club. That includes 4 days per week, and the time slots are for 2 hours each for each time slot.
So it's really, really specific.
Correct.
Okay. Well, I'm still obviously in favor of this, but I'd sure like in the next agreement that we maybe look at that and not make it so constrictive for the public to try to have time there. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, we have Councillor Back, followed by Councillor Ma. Councillor Back, go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just wanted to thank members of the committee, the Community Services Advisory Committee, for their work in going through all of these applications. It's no small task. So thank you very much to all the committee members for their work in reviewing these applications.
Thank you very much. Councillor Ma, your comments.
I support the council's objectives, the policy objectives of the permissive tax exemption especially nonprofits that provide a community benefit. And as a former member of CSAC, I know firsthand the degree of deliberation that the committee goes through for each application. So I too want to thank the committee for their hard work.
Thank you very much. And I think that's a view shared by all members of council. Appreciate the extra work that CSAC does to make sure that these are properly vetted and that our priorities are reflected in the tax exemptions in the community. So I did want to extend my appreciation on behalf of all of council for the extra work that they do. Council, I see no further speakers at this time. I'm prepared to call the question. All those in favor? Contrary minded? Motion carries. Thank you very much. Next item up for discussion is item 8.3. This is the 2024 to 2027 tax exemptions for places of public worship bylaw 8637 for 2023. Again, I'll go to finance for initial comments. Mr. Iorio.
Bylaw 8637 provided for council consideration tonight lists 22 places of public worship, along with 2 manses that are recommended for continuation of permissive tax exemption for the years encompassing 2024 to 2027. Council has typically provided permissive tax exemptions for the area of land surrounding the exempt building due to its necessity in sustaining the worship functions occurring within the exempt building.
So to be clear about that, it's a federal law that exempts the interior of the building from taxation, and it takes the municipality to also recognize the supporting lands around that. Is that correct?
It is a provincial legislation.
Provincial legislation. Great. Thank you very much. Councillor Hanson, I see your hand. Will you be making a recommendation?
Yes, thank you very much. I'll move the staff recommendation.
Thank you. Is there a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Murray. Councillor Hanson, your comments?
Just one question for the benefit of the public. It says that with respect to these various properties, and I didn't add them up, but about 20 of them. It says the 2023 exempt assessments would be 3,617,000. I just wonder why such a low assessment for these many properties, some of which are large and in very desirable locations.
Mr. Iorio.
Through your worship, Councillor Hanson, the amount provided on the financial statements on the statement there is for the manses. The assessment values and the taxation amounts for the other properties is not included as part of the financial cap.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, and I believe the seconder is Councillor Murray. Do you have additional comments? No? Okay, would anybody else like to address this matter? Call the question. All those in favor? Contrary minded? Motion carries. Thank you very much. Next item up for discussion today is the tax exemption for 2024 to 2033 Ice Sports North Shore Bylaw 8638 2023. Again, to finance staff, do you have any additional comments on the matter?
Your worship, bylaw 8638 provided for council consideration tonight recommends extension of a permissive tax exemption for Ice Sports North Shore facility at 2411 Mount Seymour Parkway per the requirements of the ice facility partnering agreement with Canlan Ice Sports Corporation. Per the agreement, the district, as the owner of the parcel, is responsible for payment of property taxes levied against Canlan's assessed interest in the publicly used portions of this facility.
Okay. And so to be clear, so if I may, historically, I remember this matter coming to council 20 years ago, Lisa, but there was a debate at the time about our ability to extend an exemption for beyond 5 years. And so just wanted to clarify, provincial law has changed to accommodate extensions of property tax exemptions beyond 5 years on this type of property?
Your worship, the community charter allows permissive tax exemption up to 10 years now.
Okay. Great, thank you very much. I'll be supporting the staff recommendation. Is there a seconder on the matter? Second by Councillor Ma. No further comments, really. I mean, obviously, I'm a Seymour resident, and I can attest to the fact that the that this facility offers a great public benefit back to the community in terms of additional ice sheets, which takes pressure off of our own public facilities. And it also provides a great opportunity for not just entry-level practice in hockey and other ice sports, but also some fairly elite level services offered privately out of the facility as well, which help our hockey players reach that next level. And so very happy with the facility, happy with the partnership, and we'll be supporting the staff recommendation. Any other comments on the matter? Councillor Ma?
Yeah, thank you. This is a question. I see at the bottom of the page, in terms of analysis, the facility agreements for another 25 years. And the recommendation is for this tax exemption for another 10. In principle, I'm okay with that. I just want to ask the question about the condition of the facility. How old is it right now? And, another 25 years, is that realistic? I just want to try to get an understanding of the building.
Do we have condition of the building at hand at the moment?
Through your worship. The building's regularly monitored and facilities staff track condition. My apologies, I don't have that information available, but I can assure you we do have the information in our facilities department. Yeah.
No, it's fine. I'll find out when I play hockey on Friday, but it's all good. But no, thank you for your work on this.
You're just looking to blame the facility. Is that how that's going to work? It's the building is slumping. Which, sorry? Bad bounce, that's right, absolutely. Okay, thank you very much. I see no further speakers on the matter. Prepared to call a question. All those in favor? Contrary minded? Motion carries. Thank you very much, Council. Next item up for discussion, one has a little more interest in it here tonight. We're going to be talking about the fireworks regulation bylaw amendment, bylaw 8640, to prohibit the use and sale of consumer fireworks. And we do have staff present from North Vancouver District Fire and Rescue Services here. And just to be clear, will you be opening up with a comment, or? I didn't get a chance to catch up with our deputy chief before the meeting.
It's on for you.
Yep, thank you. Through your worship, we do have an opening comment if you like.
You are welcome. Go ahead.
Good evening, Council. Sorry. There we go. Through your worship, good evening, Council. Item 8.5 on the agenda is a staff report in response to Council resolution on July 24th, 2023. Brought forward in a report by Councillor Jim Hansen to provide options for a ban of the retail sale and use of consumer fireworks and smoke generating pyrotechnic devices in the District of North Vancouver. This report before you tonight recommends that amending bylaw 8640 to prohibit the sale and use of consumer fireworks and bylaw 8641 to be given the first reading and refer bylaw 8640 to a public meeting.
Looking for a council. Yes, you have a council motion on the matter, or?
Yeah, I move the staff recommendation.
Okay, thank you. And is there a seconder on the matter? Councillor Pope. Yes, Councillor Hansen, your comments.
Yeah, thank you very much. I'm very pleased to support first reading of the proposed bylaw amendments to ban the sale and use of consumer fireworks in the district and to refer the matter to a public meeting. I'd like to very specifically thank Acting Deputy Chief Armstrong and Chief Hutchison for their comprehensive report, which has been put forward, a very detailed report setting out the background of the motion. Certainly, I look forward to hearing further the views of the community on this issue at the public meeting. In my view, the prohibition and use on the use and sale of consumer fireworks is long overdue in the district. I do note that under the proposed bylaw, fireworks would continue to be permitted at public events under the supervision of certified fireworks technicians, which is the role in the city of Vancouver and quite a number of other local governments that have banned fireworks. Fireworks have already been banned in the city of North Vancouver. The Squamish Nation now bans fireworks, And we are advised through the report that the District of West Vancouver and the Tsleil-Waututh Nation are both considering bans. The bans are supported by the BC Association of Chiefs of Police and the Fire Chiefs Association of British Columbia. I believe, based on my outreach in the community, that a fireworks ban is broadly supported by a majority of the residents of the district. The reason for the community's concern and preference for a proposed ban is comprehensively set out in the report of Acting Deputy Chief Armstrong and Chief Hutchison. They include, importantly, public safety, risks of fire in an increasingly dry climate, disturbance to pets and wildlife, litter, and property damage. With climate change, we increasingly experience dry weather late into the fall, and fireworks could literally be the fuse that sets our community alight. Acting Deputy Chief Armstrong and Chief Hutchison state in their report, and I quote, "Global warming has created greater drought conditions and longer dry seasons, which substantially increases the risk of fire sparked by fireworks within the community." I believe our community will collectively rest more easily when fireworks are banned in the district.
Well, thank you very much for your comments. I will just say, my preference is that because we're going to be going to a public meeting, we all want to be representing that we are amenable to persuasion in the community and that we're going to listen at the public hearing. And that doesn't mean you can't have strongly held views on the matter going in. I think it provides for a better public meeting for us to provide an air of neutrality in it as well. So I would encourage, the next speakers I have are Councillor Pope, followed by Councillor Ma. Councillor Pope is the seconder on the matter.
I very much support this motion. I agree that this is long overdue, that many other municipalities already ban it, and it's time for the district to do so as well. I understand that people feel it's something they grew up with. I did as well on the North Shore. However, over time, my views have changed on it. In particular, because of the climate, because of the dry climate, one only has to look at the horrible fire situation we had this summer and so many scares in BC, and to be concerned about that in a very big way. And in addition to that, I'm also concerned about pets and animals in the forest and how much it affects many of them. I think that for me, the biggest selling point of having a ban is that it will still enable public events under supervision of an official. And I think that could really build community. I would love to see more events surrounding Halloween night that are in key places throughout the district. Perhaps Deep Cove and perhaps Edgemont Village. We could enliven and activate more excitement within our town centers and communities. Perhaps if there were official fireworks parties happening on those sites. So I see it as an opportunity to really engage the community more and build community spirit at those locations that are safe and supervised rather than in people's backyards. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Just my own comments first, if I may. I think we've tried a few different things over the years. We've tried to do the destination piece. The challenge was the risk was entirely on the municipality. Plus also it kind of ran afoul of what we don't really want everybody going out for a drive on Halloween night when there's kids walking around all the communities. And so drawing people to a destination space in those conditions wasn't considered ideal. And so we did try it. We tried it with multiple locations in Lynn Valley, in Inter River. But we just at the end of the day, the risk for the district was not something that we were comfortable with. So we have tried that, and then we ended up returning back to just supporting the community level fireworks. I've made my comments known at the first time out. I do think this is inextricably linked to a uniquely West Coast culture. It's not something you find in other areas, and I enjoy it. And for our household, we've been supportive of a neighborhood fireworks display for a long time. It's a great opportunity for people to come out and meet each other and take advantage of that chance to say hi to neighbors, even though it's a dark and stormy time of year typically. The other piece that's been raised from time to time is on the effect on animals. And I got to tell you, we have 2 dogs in our house, and our dogs, we can take them and go and watch the neighborhood fireworks, and they're fine. What really stresses them out is all of the kids trick-or-treating and door knocking at the house. It's the door knock that really stresses them out far more than the fireworks. And we obviously aren't seeking to ban that impact in the community as well. So while I'm amenable to hearing what the community has to say as we go forward into a public meeting, and I expect this will be advanced to a public meeting, my position is still generally that I think this has a value in the community that can't be easily replaced. And I think it is worth some of the risks that we're talking about. But I'm looking forward to hearing what the public has to say in the public meeting. Next speaker I have is Councillors Ma, Muri, and then Councillor Back. Are you speaking second time? Is that right? So Councillor Ma, your comments, please.
Thank you, Mayor Little. First of all, can I just ask a quick question in terms of definition? Is there a material difference between a public meeting as opposed to a public hearing?
Yeah, that's fair. We have a clarification from the clerk. I tend to treat them as fairly similar, but you're correct. It is not the same quasi-judicial setting as a formal public hearing. Mr. Clerk?
Your worship, to Councillor Ma, public hearing is a statutory requirement in some land use bylaws. Public meeting is imposed under our bylaws, and it's an obligation for business interests to provide comments on how it may impact, again, those business interests.
Back in 2021, before I was elected to this council, I know that this issue came before council and it was defeated. And when I got elected, I didn't necessarily want to be revisiting issues that other councils had passed, except when there's new information or if it was a really bad decision to start with. When I look at this situation, there's pros and cons about maintaining this tradition. And I talked to my daughter, she's 13, she's 14. They really enjoy it too. So there is something about getting out once a year for something and bringing the community together. On the flip side, if this ban is going to go ahead, I think it was important that the whole North Shore was in line. And what I'm hearing from this report is 2 of the 4 municipalities, the city has already passed, and West Van is planning to, Squamish has banned it, and Tsleil-Waututh is thinking of it. So it seems like this might be time for us to get aligned with our neighbors on the North Shore. But I will keep an open mind at the public meeting. So that's just a comment. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Muri.
Thank you, Mayor Little. This has been one that has come back over the years, and I guess what we hear right after Halloween is ban the fireworks. It sounded like a war zone in our neighborhoods. My animals were stressed. People that have PTSD have been stressed. We have had a very long summer. We're not into winter. It's dry now. We're very concerned about the forests and forest fires, etc. But if I look at this report, and this is what I hope at this public meeting we can clarify, Assistant Chief Danks, is that it's not really a ban. It's only a ban if you don't have a license to discharge fireworks. Surrey, for instance, on the graph says that they've banned fireworks, but they're not banned. You can apply for a license if you have a pyrotechnics certificate. And I would think that there would be a number of professionals that would be able to be hired out to apply for that could come and apply for a permit to be able to discharge fireworks. And then we're right back to the place where we sound like a war zone, our animals are stressed, we're concerned about fire, we're concerned about people with PTSD. So, you know, I've always said throughout all of these discussions that we've had on this issue is that a ban doesn't mean that they will go away. They're not going to go away. You can buy them online. We do not have confirmation from the Tsleil-Waututh that they will be banned on First Nations land. We do have confirmation from the Squamish, and you can still buy them within the Lower Mainland. Not all municipalities buy them. In fact, it's just over half of the region bans them. But what is a ban? It's not zero. And how do we enforce that? So my worry is that we do this and then people have this false sense of security that they're going to go away somehow, and they're actually not going to go away. If we have over the years lobbied the provincial government to bring in a complete ban within the province, and we've talked to federal MPs to limit the sales coming into the country, that's an opportunity to create a ban. But as long as you provide a venue or a way to acquire them, then I'd like to understand at that public meeting how we are going to be able to enforce it. What's the difference between banning and licensing now through our fire department and through our bylaw services or through the municipality? You know, what groups are going to be coming forward? Do we have a better oversight over what's going on in the community by knowing where the licenses are? Because I don't understand what's going to change. I think what's changed over the last few years from when my neighborhood did it with the wheelbarrow and the sand and the Roman candles sitting there and one of the dads being the brave one and going out and standing in the middle of the road and lighting them off, is that now these displays are rivaling, what's that word?
Rivaling.
Thank you. Rivaling the
Professionals.
The professionals, like the big display that we have in English Bay every summer, right? Like the Festival of Lights. Like it's no game anymore. It's a big deal, and they're spending thousands and thousands of dollars on these events. No wonder the vendors are coming forward, because there's significant money here. So I am going to supply a list of questions to staff, hopefully that they can bring forward to provide information at that community meeting. And when do we think the community meeting is going to happen?
Mr. Clerk, do we have that date?
No, we don't yet, Your Worship. We need to check on council's availability.
Are we?
Not in the week of Halloween, please.
Because this is not going to be banned before Halloween this year, because this is now a bylaw, an amendment to a bylaw. So I do think that we need to understand when this meeting is going to happen. I feel like the Christmas lights issue are coming back. Ban Christmas lights right before Christmas, ban fireworks before Halloween. So I just think there's a lot of information that needs to be updated. Sorry, I'll come back.
I think that's a fair point to clarify, though. Is this intended to take place January 1 or before Halloween of this year? What would be intended? Because theoretically, this would have to go to a public meeting, then return to council for adoption, and then take effect at some date that we set out in the legislation. What timeline are you talking about for this? Do we have anybody who can answer that question? Mr. Stewart.
Your Worship, again, it goes back to when we can schedule the meeting, but we also have to take into consideration the kind of notice that we would be giving to the industry, so to speak. So if, for example, we couldn't get that public meeting until the second week in October, it would be very difficult to implement this before this Halloween. So it would likely occur for some time in the future, perhaps even next year.
Well, we need to get that information out as soon as we have a firm date on that, because I think there's a lot of people that are going to be relying on that information to make business decisions, and so we need to get that out quickly. Councillor Murray, were your comments complete?
No.
Okay.
But I have another 2 minutes, don't I?
Well, and I've got Councillor back here. Is that from the first time? Go ahead.
I didn't go yet, but we've been debating this issue for 4 years, so it feels like I may have. No, just kidding. But we have, as has been noted, debated this issue in the last term of council. I'm pleased that it's been brought up again to take another look at. I tend to feel the same as the mayor on this particular issue. It is a unique West Coast tradition. As I've said before, my partner's from Toronto, and it's definitely not a tradition that they hold in Ontario the same way as they do here. But I grew up around fireworks, particularly around neighborhood displays of fireworks. And I think it is one of those occasions every year where neighbors do get together, as the mayor has said, in dark, October kind of weather, to get together as neighbors, as community, and they do it over fireworks. There's a lot of pressing issues facing our community, whether it's housing, whether it's transportation. I just don't think banning of fireworks is something that we should be spending a whole lot of time on. I think we're going to hear from residents every year who don't like the negative effects, and I certainly appreciate the negative effects that they have on animals in particular. But there's lots of positive. As I say, the neighborhood gatherings. We've heard from people who enjoy the positive aspect, including the mother of a child with autism, I recall. One of our school trustees, Cindy Gerlach, who said that it's one thing that her son looks forward to every single year. And so that's, to me, that really hit me. I felt that. As I say, there's few things that get people together. And I think, especially at this time, we need more things that bring people together in a positive way, not less. And I think if we were to implement a ban, we should be replacing it with another tradition, as Councillor Pope has highlighted, supporting, going back to some more neighborhood gatherings as we've done in the past. Maybe we can do them in a different way. But if we are bringing forward a ban, I would really urge our staff to try and couple that with another event of some sort to replace this tradition, which really is a tradition in this part of the world. So again, I want to thank Councillor Hanson for bringing forward this motion, but I won't be supporting the staff recommendation.
Okay, thank you very much, Councillor Back. Councillor Murray, your additional 2 minutes, or Councillor Forbes, have you spoken yet? Councillor Forbes, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. I've been on both sides of this, because the last time it was defeated, I was one of the people that defeated it. And then this time in the first, in the July 24th meeting, I thought I said maybe it's time that we do this for all the reasons that Councillor Pope and Councillor Hanson have said. And there's a lot of pros and cons on both sides of this. To me, this is a difficult issue. I just wanted to comment what Councillor Pope said about getting communities together. I have a son that was a fire chief up in the Caribou. So he's been around the wildfires and all of that. And they do it where he is. They do it as a community event. And the kids love it. They come out and climb on the fire truck, and there's hot chocolate and hot dogs. And it's really a community event that pulls people together, not just a neighborhood, but pulls people together. It's a little different down here because they're farther apart from each other. So maybe that's more there. But I mean, it's a wonderful experience. So there's the goods and then the negatives, like you mentioned, and we don't want everybody driving around to go somewhere. So I'm going to keep an open mind on this until we get past the public meeting. And if I think I mistakenly heard you say it's for businesses, the public meeting as opposed to a public hearing is for businesses to come and tell us?
I think the clerk was commenting on that a public hearing has to do with land use and private property. And if you're changing a policy that affects businesses, then you have a public meeting.
Okay.
Is that fair? Yeah.
Okay. I just also like to make note of the fact that all of the people that don't want fireworks banned are all related to members of or run businesses of fireworks. So there wasn't one person who showed up here tonight to say that they didn't want them banned. So I'm going to keep an open mind going into that public meeting and try and weigh all the pros and cons again.
Okay, that's fine. Councillor Murray, additional comments?
Well, just within the bylaw on page 15 of our report, or 1524 of the bylaw. So it does say that proof of a fireworks supervisor or pyrotechnician certification issued to the applicant by the Explosive Regulatory Division of Natural Resources Canada, a certificate of assurance evidencing the applicant has comprehensive general liability, an authorization signed by the property owner or owner's agents where the event is being displayed. A person meeting the requirements in section 6 of this bylaw may apply for a display event permit. So really we're reinforcing and improving the regulation on fireworks. So it's going to be harder for people to set fireworks off. But if the community believes that what we are doing here at this table tonight by referring this bylaw to a public meeting and possibly approving a ban, or we may not, I don't know, we'll have to determine what kind of input we receive from the community and go from there. It doesn't mean fireworks are going to go away. And even if we have 20 firefighters setting it off like we used to do in Inter River and Myrtle and, you know, up in Cleveland Park, there's still those risks. Those risks still exist. We're shooting fire up into the air. So I just don't want the community to have this false sense of security that they're all going to go away. I also would like to know if West Van is going to be enacting a bylaw similar to what we're doing this year for implementation next year. We do obviously need to contact the Tsleil-Waututh, and I'd like to know if the municipalities around the region that have put in a ban with exceptions, have they had less infractions? Have they had less control over what's going on? What have been the pros and cons of those bylaws being put in place by some municipalities similar to ours in the region? I think all of that information is very important to bring back. I just have to finish with one thing. You know, I think it's very important for the North Shore to be the same, but I also think that because we have First Nations where we do not have any enforcement capabilities, you know, that plays a very important point to this discussion for me.
Okay, and just my own last couple of comments on the matter. I mean, last year we got very close to putting in a ban because of the fire conditions, and so the fire chief already still has the ability to put in a ban and to cancel the commercial sale of them. We got very close to it last year. We got into the middle of October and we had been dry for a very long time, and then we got a week of just solid rain, and so the decision was made to proceed. So we already have that capability to respond to the fire risk in our community, but also I get that people are saying that there's a bit of a fallback position. You'll still be able to have fireworks. You'll just have to do it in a different way. Only the rich will be able to afford that, to hire a professional fireworks technician to do all of the work to be able to host an event in their community. We're talking what we do in the community right now is just anybody goes up, they fill out the little permit form, it gets passed, and then you go and you get a couple of fireworks for you and your family, you share them with your neighbors. It's a lot more approachable than what's being presented as the fallback position, which I got to tell you is going to be very exclusive. You're going to see it like what Anmore got in with when a very wealthy person decided that they wanted to have a big event, and so they had a helicopter come in, they had fireworks going off, they did a big display, but for the rest of the community to be able to put all of that organized together, it's not feasible. Yeah, again, I'll have an open mind if this does go to public meeting, but I don't know that it's worth it.
Could we get that information too, based on the other municipalities and the kind of applications that you have to go through? How many applications have they had from professionals that are willing to do this? I'd be interested in that.
Yeah, because we've had it allowed to anybody. I don't know that we'll have good data on professionals necessarily doing it? Yeah, okay. We'll do what we can on that, I guess, if we can check with particularly focus on our neighbors, but that's fine. Councillor Forbes, did you wish to speak again? Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just wanted to say that in the July meeting, I also said the same thing, that I didn't want to mislead the community, that just because we ban it, it's necessarily going to go away, because you can order on the internet, you can go over to another municipality and buy them and bring them back here. But along with that, the other concern I was thinking about was our resources. It's difficult. The RCMP have their hands full. The fire department normally has its hands full. So I was also concerned about the amount of resources that we put in right now when it's under the conditions it is right now. If it was banned except for with someone with a license, that might make it easier for the RCMP and the fire people to decide who's being safe and obeying the law and has a permit, as opposed to not all of those things. So I just want to say, I reinforce what I said the first time, that they'll get anyone who wants the fireworks that badly is going to get them. It's not going to go away. But on the other hand, do we want to keep spending the resources that we spend on this type of use the way it is right now? Just 2 points I wanted to make.
Thank you. I think from the comments I've heard that the matter is going to be successfully referred to a public meeting, and so we'll get further opportunities to make comment on the matter. At this point, I don't see any further speaker. I'm prepared to call the question on the matter, and this is for the matter to be given first reading and referred to a public meeting, date to be determined as soon as reasonably practicable. Okay, that is the motion. I'll call the question. All those in favor? Oh. Contrary minded? Motion is carried with Mayor Little and Councillor Back opposed. Okay, thank you very much. The next discussion that we have is item 8.6. This is 3712, 3718 Edgemont Boulevard demolition permit. Mr. Smith, no? Okay, we're going to start with Mr. Milburn.
Good evening, Your Worship, members of council. A demolition permit application has been received for 3712, 3718 Edgemont Boulevard, the property listed in the district's Community Heritage Register. The Heritage Procedures Bylaw of council requires that the chief building official withhold permits or approvals for properties that are on the Heritage Register, where they might be impacted by things such as demolition, and that the matter be referred to council for consideration. The applicant is requesting demolition at this time based on their assessment and the assessment of their consultants that the building no longer has salvageable heritage value and the occurrence of ongoing undesirable activities on the site. Staff has reviewed the condition assessment information provided by the applicant, as well as advice from the heritage consultant, and agreed that meaningful heritage conservation of the property is unfortunately no longer a viable option. Therefore, staff believe the chief building official should be directed to issue the demolition permit. I just wanted to clarify a couple points for council. Being on the Heritage Register does not mean the property has temporary or ongoing protection. It is simply identification that that is a site that is worthy of consideration. The consideration to the level of detail has occurred with the assessment completed by the heritage consultant, and the staff feel that in this circumstance, it is appropriate that the permit be issued. I also wish to note that under the Residential Tenancy Act, allows landlords to end a tenancy if the landlord has all the necessary permits and approvals required by law and intends in good faith to demolish the rental unit. And the Residential Tenancy Act requires the landlord provide 4 months of notice and compensation in an amount equivalent to 1 month's rent payable under the tenancy agreement. There are 2 tenants that would be affected by the issuance of this demolition permit, and they would be, the notice and the compensation would be payable to them under the Residential Tenancy Act. The district's residential tenant relocation assistance policy does not apply in this case, as it only applies to properties where there are 5 or more tenancies that are being displaced. However, we always do encourage applicants to voluntarily consider the opportunity for tenant relocation assistance in addition to the minimum requirements of the Act. Your worship, the matter is now before council for consideration, and staff look for council's direction. I'm happy to answer questions, and we also have staff available to assist with the answers. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, council looking for your direction on this matter. I'm Councillor Hanson.
Yeah, I'll move the staff recommendation.
Staff recommendation is moved. Is there a seconder on the matter? I'll second for discussion. Councillor Hanson, your comments.
Yeah, thank you very much. I have attended at this site and I've also read the materials put forward in support of the staff recommendation. In my view, it's clear, both from having walked around the area and also read the expert opinions, that this area no longer offers, or this site no longer offers the potential for heritage value. It's fallen into a state of such disrepair that it would not be capable of remediation. The site is also infested with rats, apparently, and destruction of the buildings is necessary to remediate that infestation. I understand there still are 2 residents of this of these buildings living there. I understand they're living rent-free at the moment. And I do hope some effort is put into finding them rehousing. But with that being my only reservation, I believe it is appropriate. I sit on the Heritage Advisory Committee as a representative of the district, so I'm very sensitive to the heritage preservation objective. But regrettably, in my view, in this case, there's really no heritage value left to preserve. So those are my comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hanson. My own comments are fairly similar. I'm also former chair of the Heritage Commission and desperately want to see high quality heritage buildings restored and maintained in our community. This isn't one of those. This is in a very deteriorated state, and the primary heritage features are not worth preserving from what's remaining of this. Also, the neighborhood has had quite a toll from the deterioration of this building. It is deeply affecting the whole street in the condition that it's in. And I think that we have an obligation to secure the facility and make sure that it doesn't present a clear risk to the community. And so I think we shouldn't wait any further on this to issue this demolition permit. So I'll be supportive of the staff recommendation. Councillor Muri, your comments?
Can we defeat the request for development, demolition permit to be issued?
Mr. Milburn.
Your worship, if council feels that there is justification from the preservation of the existing heritage value on the property, council can ask for temporary protection of the property while a further assessment occurs to determine if permanent protection is appropriate. And staff would then bring back options for permanent protection that could involve compensation to the existing owner for the loss of economic value of the property. Although there is definitely not much economic value in the building itself, the property itself is also part of that economic assessment. So staff would come back with options. However, as I mentioned, the first step in the process is a temporary protection to assess whether or not the property has value, and that has already occurred. There has been an assessment completed by a reputable heritage consultant, the same consultant who helped us prepare our heritage strategy and who we often refer these matters to, and that consultant has already provided their advice. So we're not recommending temporary protection to obtain that understanding of the property. We already have that understanding, and it is their opinion, and we have agreed with that opinion, that unfortunately there is not the heritage value on the site.
But if I may, ultimately, with a determined owner, the district can only delay issuance of a building permit. And if the district decides over time to not issue the permit, that they have redress with the courts to have that permit
Your worship, under the district's bylaw, there is only the availability for temporary protection, as you mentioned. However, council could then also issue a permanent protection through bylaw. But that has, as I mentioned, the ability for the owner to, actually a right of the owner to be given compensation should a heritage protection bylaw be instituted by council.
Don Luxton did actually support the revitalization of one of these buildings. And so did our Heritage Advisory Committee support it. And I think this is a really important lesson, council, that the time between that report and where we are today, nothing much happened. And these buildings were left to go into disarray. Partly because we as a council and a municipality were not willing to go forward. I recall over the years, we've had a number of HRAs, and we've worked very, very, very hard to protect those buildings, those important heritage buildings in our community. We worked very hard, duplexes up at the top of Lonsdale, and a number of other, another few properties, because we value what these buildings tell us about our history. And I fear that this may be the future. Already the Heritage Advisory Committee over the years was very frustrated in the sense that, you know, we did not have willing property owners wanting to take these jewels and protect them. They just wanted to come in and mow them. And so HRAs were a way to provide a carrot to the development community to be able to keep them. I guess, you know, one of my biggest questions here, based on the two letters that have submitted by Duval Consulting and Robert Blaney, is why do we have two tenants living in a building with dry rot, failing roofs, termite damage, disintegration of supporting structures, integrity of support jeopardized, black mold, water egress throughout, dated and questionable wiring, et cetera, et cetera. Like, honestly, what are we doing here? We're letting buildings rot. So this is the lesson, right? When these older buildings come forward, we need to do something creative. We need to think outside the box. It's not just about checking boxes. It's about, you know, thinking bigger than, you know, the policies that we live within, and taking some chances and really understand what's going to happen, like this, where we could have saved one building. Now we're not saving any. And we've left people living in these buildings that apparently is the reason for this accelerated demolition. Like, honestly, I really think that we need to give our head a shake and understand, like, why this is even okay to be brought forward. This is some sort of justification. Well, we got to tear them down because the roof's falling in, but we're okay with leaving people in them and letting them live there. I mean, that's a disgrace. An absolute disgrace. And that is not how we used to operate in regards to these properties. Of course, they're old. Of course, they've been, you know, they haven't been, you know, maybe a lot of them haven't been looked after over the years because the residents were getting older and it was tougher for them to be able to maintain them. But now with, you know, our ability to be able to add some density and make it amenable to the surrounding community and keep that preservation of that heritage, that history, that story, we should work harder and not sort of just bring something forward. Do you want to do this? This is the only option. Yes or no. We say no, we go away, and we don't understand the fallout. And now we're experiencing what the fallout is. And I think it's really sad. I really think we lost an opportunity to protect an important piece of architecture. And I really would like to understand through staff and Mr. Stewart, I think we need to pay a bit of more attention to why we're allowing this structure to rot while we have human beings living in it. Not impressed at all.
Additional comments from Mr. Milburn.
Thank you, Your Worship. Just as a reminder for council, there was two structures, fourplexes, that were identified as potentially having some heritage value in the former application. So the subject property, which is before you tonight, as well as 3700 3710 Edgemont Boulevard. That's the property immediately to the east. So the former application was looking at drawing from whatever elements they could from those two fourplexes and then preserving one structure. Very few elements from the building, which is under consideration tonight, were usable even at that time in 2019. So the application before council tonight is for the least usable of the two structures. And so the fourplex that is on the immediately adjacent property, that is not part of this demolition request. That is a separate owner, and that still has some opportunity for consideration of preservation of heritage value long term. That property is being kept up. I agree, it's a very unfortunate situation with respect to the condition of the building. We've certainly been working with the applicant to try to see them resolve the issue. They've had their own personal circumstances that have delayed this development, redevelopment and demolition. And we would certainly agree that the most suitable course of action is that we no longer have residents within this structure, and demolition is a sound direction at this time, unfortunately.
Can you speak to Councillor Murray's question about our active response to deteriorating conditions and like, why isn't this building already condemned, I guess is the proverbial question. So do you have a response to that?
Yeah.
Thank you, Worship. So in terms of assessment of conditions, it's always a challenge, given that there are limited powers in the district's authority to rectify those conditions. There are certainly powers as well with the Health Authority and with the Residential Tenancy Act. So tenants who have challenges with their existing tenancies can certainly contact the district and will respond to standards of maintenance issues. We've been aware that there are issues with this property and have been encouraging the applicant to pursue some course of action to rectify the site for some time and to do it quickly. It's an unfortunate situation. The question before us now is, should it be demolished? And we agree. However, we always encourage tenants who feel that they are in unsafe situations to contact authorities such as the Residential Tenancy Act or the district directly, and we will pursue those actions. This site is not one that is recoverable.
With the obvious problem in that they get evicted. And so unfortunately, we have a system that is set up where the only people that can activate the standards of maintenance being fought on behalf of a third party are the people who will be evicted when that happens. And so it seems to me that we have a policy that recognizes it's going to let systems decay and deteriorate. I get that the people that are living in these situations are probably the most affordable housing in the entire district of North Vancouver in many ways. But there has to be a minimum standard for health safety that needs to be met. And I think it's unfortunate that the only way that can be started is by someone who becomes more vulnerable because of the situation. So I find that unacceptable, but I can see how that's how these things get initiated. And it would be very hard for us to proactively go around and kick our most vulnerable people out of their housing because of deteriorating conditions, because then you can also incentivize people to allow those conditions to continue to deteriorate as well, versus where they have rentals where they're incentivized to get a higher rental rate to maintain their properties properly and have long-term tenants. So it's a very tricky matter, but I do think that we have a system that is unfortunately got holes in it and leaves some very vulnerable people very vulnerable. Councillor Murray, did you have additional comments now? You want to do your 2 minutes?
I'll do
now?
my 2 minutes.
Yeah.
I point out under the Duval Consulting attachment 2, our company has been contracted since 2019 to conduct ongoing maintenance. Our attempts to maintain the structure has been an uphill battle. In the past 3 years, the structure has continued to worsen at a rate that greatly outpaces our repairs. And I wonder how long the application for this project has been in our system, that we have known that this has been coming, and now we're at a place of demolition in order to proceed with a development application. I wonder when that will be coming forward. So the break is so clear and so egregious in this case, because we have people living in these buildings. Like, there should be a full review of this. an absolute full review. Because when will be the next time that a property such as this or any other property is bought by somebody in order to redevelop into the future, and it is left to disintegrate, and then it is like, well, we can't do anything about this, so we're going to have to rebuild and redevelop, and we're going to have to demolish. Well, we have people living in the building, and quite frankly, we have seen that over the years with multifamily. You know, stoves needing to be lit throughout the day because there's been gas leaks, mold in apartments where, you know, tenants are now at the mercy of the new owners waiting for development applications. Has this gone to our Heritage Committee? Any form, any of the buildings, any of it?
Mr. Milburn?
Your worship, the former application that was looking at the demolition of this structure and the restoration and maintenance of the adjacent structure on the eastern property, that was presented to the Heritage Committee, and they supported the approach of retaining the other structure because it was known at the time and identified by the heritage consultant that there were very limited elements in this particular building that were worthy of preservation. So comment was provided at that time on the impact, overall impact. They've also been kept up to date by the applicant with respect to this proposal.
But in this report, it does point out that the Heritage Committee has not commented on this specific demolition. Is that correct? Yeah, is
Your
that
worship.
correct? So they happen. I'm looking, so I'm hearing
Sorry,
you.
To be fair, Mr. Milburn, they already said they supported the demolition of it during the previous discussion. Is that not accurate?
That's correct, in retention of any elements that could be preserved,
Yeah.
but then preserving the structure that's on the adjacent property to the east and having it relocated on the property in some way.
But they did make note that the Heritage Committee was not they did not get to review this in any, even though they had previously done it, they didn't get to review this one. They made note of it. in the
Not an
report.
additional time, but you can see how it's unlikely that their position would have changed,
Yeah.
improved after those years.
I mean, I'd like to refer this, I mean, you know, the vote will be taken, and, you know, obviously, we're not going to let people live in houses where the structure is falling apart and mold, although I guess we have over the last 3 years, we've allowed that to happen. Let's put a stop to that now, and sorry for their displacement, and let's hope that we can find them a place to live. But I think a review of this should be done, and I think the Heritage Committee should be part of that. Understanding maybe this procedure and how this could, you know, create more opportunities like this in the future, sadly.
Yeah, okay, thank you very much. I've got councillors Back and Ma. Councillor Back.
Thank you, Your Worship. I too would appreciate the current opinion of the Heritage Committee just on this particular property. I did tour the property to the east back in 2019 with members of the Heritage Committee at that time. Certainly saw the value in these, the heritage in these buildings. They were the first multifamily buildings of this type in the district, I believe, built in 1951 by Fred Hollingsworth. His son was actually quite interested in being part of a potential HRA, and I think what they wanted to do was include some below market housing with the heritage structure. So I think it's really unfortunate that proposal couldn't find its way to council because I think it actually made a lot of sense and would have preserved some heritage. But I can certainly sympathize with the neighbors of this current property and the state that it's in, and some of the issues that you've had to deal with over the years. So I am supportive of the staff recommendation here for the demolition, but I do think it is unfortunate that it could be preserved.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Ma.
One word I keep hearing is unfortunate. And, you know, to me, this is unfortunate situation. In one of my previous jobs, sometimes we would manage properties that, you know, the upkeep wasn't great. And there were times when we thought properties were operated to fail because there was some benefit to have that occur. That was in my previous jobs. After speaking with Councillor Hanson earlier today, I did venture up to look at the site myself because the photos don't really quite show it enough. I did notice something. There's think a development proposal. I just, maybe it's by coincidence, I noticed the name on the sign is also the name on a letter that gave an opinion on the property. Notwithstanding that, I am comforted that there's a second opinion by Don Luxton, who I'm familiar with, having worked with him on some projects at BC Housing. So overall, it's unfortunate because I think some of the heritage buildings in our community add value because it helps to understand where we came from. But I also respect that the staff have made a recommendation that there's not much value in retaining what's left. So I wish something could have been done earlier, but you know, maybe in the future. But I will support the staff recommendation on this as well. Thank you.
Council, I see no further speakers on this issue at the time. Fair to call the question on issuance. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried unanimously by council. Okay. The next item that we have for discussion is the streamlining application review process for affordable assisted living residences and community care facilities in the District of North Vancouver. This is item 8.7. And Mr. Milburn wants some opening comments on it, and go ahead.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Your Worship, members of council. At the July 24th regular meeting of council, the following motion was passed that staff report back on ways to expedite the Legion project and present options, including timelines to council at the next scheduled meeting, September 11th, 2023, which is tonight. In response, staff is proposing to extend the existing priority placed on social and supportive housing projects to include projects that are proposing affordable assisted living residents and community care facilities for the delivery of care to seniors in the district. The report further proposes eligibility criteria for those applications in order for the projects to qualify for priority in terms of their affordability level. Staff believes this is an important and useful step to ensure applications for affordable seniors care facilities are expedited in a timely fashion to help meet the critical housing and care needs of seniors in the future. The report tonight recommends a policy change. It is not specific to any one proposal or any one application, but specific to a type of applications. So we believe that's consistent with our past approach and makes sense moving forward. Staff are happy to answer questions with respect to the recommended policy and look forward to council's feedback. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Milburn. I see Councillor Pope, your comments, or sorry, would you have a motion? Yes.
My motion is to support the recommendation by staff.
Thank you. Is there a seconder for that motion? Seconded by Councillor Murray. Councillor Pope, your comments?
Thank you very much. This recommendation stemmed from the original motion that I proposed in July, asking the planning department to provide council with options and ways to expedite the Legion's plan to redevelop their site in Lynn Valley. I want to reiterate that this motion was only asking for planning to provide us with information about how the process could be expedited. That plan included affordable long-term care housing or assisted living for seniors, affordable housing for healthcare workers, a daycare, community kitchen, and the Legion was hopeful that Vancouver Coastal Health would partner on the project and that would make it affordable. What we now have is a recommendation from staff that doesn't address the Legion or its development. And I'm wondering, Mr. Milburn, if you could please provide some details as to what happened in that process and why we're in the place we're at.
Mr. Milburn.
Thank you, Your Worship, to Councillor Pope. Staff immediately reached out to the not applicant, because at that time it was just a concept. So we reached out to the Legion and the anticipated developer and provided them with information on how to submit an application and what information might be required at that time. They evaluated the information and they came back to staff with a revised concept, I would describe it as. We met last week And in that recent meeting, the proponent had indicated their proposal has now changed from a seniors care model to more of a seniors independent living model. And they, at this time, were not able to confirm the level of affordability in that concept. However, they expressed an interest in providing housing at a low end of market, all of course subject to potential future negotiations with other housing providers such as Vancouver Coastal Health. So really what we have is an evolving concept at this time. So we aren't able to comment specifically on an application. We do not currently have an application before staff or before council. However, what we found is that in order to appropriately respond to council's request for options, we felt it important to provide some information on how applications of this type, when they are received in the future, could be expedited in a timely way, which is the focus of council's report. Pardon me, the report written by staff to council. Thank you.
And so would the new Legion concept fit the criteria of this, of these recommendations?
Mr. Milburn.
Your worship, it would not, in that it isn't providing seniors care. It's an independent living, and there is no currently a defined level of affordability, whereas the policy of staff recommends a certain amount of affordability to define it from any other project that might come along. The focus we understood to be seniors care facilities with affordability level included in that analysis, which is the proposal before council tonight.
Thank you. I was at that meeting last week as well, and at that time, the Legion advised that Vancouver Coastal Health would not be partnering on the seniors care piece of the development. And so that basically kiboshed the idea of affordable long-term care for seniors. And that's where we're at today. So very unfortunately, the Legion, I believe, is now considering its options. I'm hoping that another path can be found to providing a much needed facility for seniors in the district. In the meantime, staff are recommending this broader policy that we give priority processing to include affordable assisted living residences and community care facilities for the delivery of care to seniors in the district. And other options to streamline the review process will be examined on an individual project basis. So I am all in favor of expediting any affordable housing projects in long-term care or assisted living for seniors. And that is why I will be supporting this recommendation.
Thank you very much, Councillor Poe. Councillor Murray, your comments?
Thank you, Mayor Little. Well, I guess I'm surprised again that we don't already do this. Like, why don't we already do this? Why do we have to have a report brought forward about a specific application, which is, you know, with all due respect, unusual because we don't do that. And if I had been at the meeting in the end of July, I would have said that we don't advance individual applications at council. The role of us is to make a decision once it gets through our staff and through the process. And you know, this for me is not about the land at the Legion. This for me is about something that I thought we were already doing, and now I've realized we're not doing it. Of course, Kiwanis, we wanted to, you know, make sure that there was some synergies there in regards to what we were doing with developments in that area, and it was an important level of housing. So we already did expedite that kind of assisted living. So we were doing it, but now we have to write it down in a policy or a report and get us to agree again. And I think that needs a review as well. I wonder what else we're not doing that we need to bring a report forward so we can approve or staff doing it. The Legion site has been a very contentious piece of property for many years. It is outside of the town center. There's been a significant amount of opposition in the neighboring community, and the density is always the #1 issue. The iteration for that land has taken on many different forms, again, trying to fit I believe, a square peg into a round hole, and it is not something that is being supported by the local neighborhood. So again, everybody has to try to come to the table and find a resolution that will work for everyone. I'm not interested in battling the neighborhoods of Lynn Valley nor any other part of the municipality. I think there is a way, but this is generally about money and profit, and they're trying to find profit within this project. And I think it's going to be very challenging given the opposition that would come forward. So I again, you know, I think council needs to have a, we're going to talk about workshops one of these days, and maybe we need to have a workshop on what we think is happening in regards to processing of applications, the kind of applications that we would like to prioritize going forward, generally not specific applications, but general applications, deep dive affordable housing. Let's define what that is. And make sure that those projects, you know, there is extra level of support for them going forward because they're important. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor
Ma. Thank you, Mayor Little. I'm going to support this recommendation as well. I want to thank the staff for the work that's done. And there's this one point I want to bring up. I did talk to Mr. Milburn about this before. I appreciate learning that there is a priority processing for social and supportive housing. My wish is that we make some real progress on some of the projects listed. I see once again, you know, 16th and Lloyd on there. I just hope we start moving on it because it's
How many years?
a few. And I even worked on it when I was at BC Housing about 4 or 5 years ago. There's a lot of history, and I just, without any finger pointing, I just want to encourage staff to do what they can to advance this because there is a need. This project does serve a specific target clientele group that I think would really benefit from having stable housing in that area. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ma. Councillor Forbes.
Example there.
Thank you, Your Worship. Sorry, little side conversation. The first thing, I need a clarification. Usually in the reports, we have it laid out what the recommendations are very clearly. It's not laid out here. It just says that the recommendation is that council endorse staff recommendations as outlined in the report. So, Mr. Milburn, could you outline exactly, if we vote in favor of this, exactly what the recommendations are?
Mr. Milburn. Oh, yeah, Zhang.
Yep, I'm through your worship. So what staff is making recommendation is that to extend the priority processing to include senior care that has a significant affordable components. And we're also presenting some options in terms of when you're looking at a rezoning, there will be, you know, opportunity to not hold public hearing or to looking at the public engagement in a different way. And those are options. Once we do receive a live application, we could come back and present to council. So that's basically what we're recommending.
Thank you. That's what I was afraid of. I'm never going to stop having a public hearing. I mean, that's my core belief, that we need to listen to the community and then decide after we've heard from the community. So just because we've been given the right by the provincial government to ignore having a public hearing doesn't mean we should. So if that's if that is included as a recommendation in here, then I can't support this recommendation. But on the whole, I also would like to say what Councillor Murray said. In the last term that I served on, we made it very clear what we wanted prioritized and put fast-tracked. And it was social supportive of affordable rental housing. And so I was a little bit shocked about this report when it came forward, because I thought we'd already done it, but maybe we hadn't done it in writing. So now it had to be in writing, which then makes me question, as Councillor Murray said, what else have we said? And it's been said, okay, we're going to do that, but it's not official. It's not in writing. So I have concerns about that as well. The Kiwanis that we made a little bit of a twist to when that came up was under different circumstances. This is like comparing apples and oranges. Kiwanis had set out their criteria. They couldn't get their building filled. There was a financial need to get the money in, and it was within a 2-month period. We were recessing, and they had to have something done before September, and we were recessing. So there was an exception made there. That's not the norm. So in the report carrying those two, I don't see the relation to compare that. I think it's misleading. Also, I had a bunch more stuff, but basically there's not much point in me saying anything more than that. I wish that staff had not put in there the opportunity to no public hearing, because I can't support it if we're going to put that in writing. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Milburn.
Your worship, just a point of clarification, there is no lawful requirement for a public hearing. The province struck that from the act. And so in every single circumstance where there is an application that comes before council, council considers a resolution whether or not to hold a public hearing. It is the normal course of business that the district recommends it. There are exceptional circumstances where it's not. All Ms. Sang was mentioning is that it will be one of the options available to council to consider not holding. That is currently the situation with every kind of application the council considers. However, it was simply mentioned in the staff report as a potential exceptional circumstance to be considered on a case-by-case basis. In terms of prioritization, the district works very closely in a sort of team environment and a project management environment with prioritized applications. And that includes dedicated staff time, that includes additional staff time from other types of unprioritized applications to ensure that their applications are processed expediently. Supportive and social housing projects have been prioritized by council. And in this particular circumstances, there was a conversation about prioritizing a particular application. And staff's recommendation was simply to respond to that by saying a policy, as opposed to considering on a case-by-case basis, but a policy in this circumstance that has an affordability criteria attached to it with care for seniors would make sense to give staff some of that direction so that we can prioritize our staff time to ensure that we have that efficient project management approach to reviewing applications of this type. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Milburn. Councilor Ford.
Just in response, so then can we take the part in here if it is a recommendation that we dispense with the public hearing? If it's an option that's always available, then why is it a recommendation in here? Can we take that out? Because we're going to do it anyway on a case-by-case basis, but to put it in writing, like I've just said, I thought last term we decided on priorities, and then I find out maybe not. So I'm a little nervous about putting that in writing. I think it should be, if it could be taken out of here, then I would support this.
I think it has enough support for it in its current form, and council always retains the right to decide to proceed with a public hearing or not. And so I'm assuming that's not a friendly amendment. That's something that their recommendation is that staff would report back on the issue of that. So I don't think that motion would pass, and I don't think it would be constructive. So at this point, I'm going to go on to the next speaker, which is Councillor Back. And then I'll have my comments, and then Councillor Murray a second time. Councillor Back.
Thank you, Your Worship. I think if you were just reading this, this updated policy in terms of streamlining these types of applications, it looks like it makes sense. But when you get into the affordability requirements and having the 30% of the total proposed residential units meeting the criteria that's mentioned here, I don't know how many projects we're actually going to see that can meet these requirements. perhaps staff can comment on the types of projects that would meet these kind of requirements. Have we seen similar ones like it that would have in recent years?
Your worship, we've seen a variety of applications. Some are purely market seniors applications, but others do include a component of affordability. And in the past, councils dealt with that prioritization on a case-by-case basis. There was a proposal at the time called Trellis on Oxford Street. Council had identified it as being an important site, and that had a component of affordability within it as well. I think it really depends. It's a case-by-case kind of operation. The reason why staff are recommending that there be a threshold for prioritization in this case is that not every application that walks in the door can be prioritized. And what we understood to be council's priority was affordable projects that had a component of affordability that could be confirmed by staff and then identified for prioritization. That does not mean other applications that have seniors in them are deprioritized in a sense that they are not relevant or not important. It simply means that of a list of applications that are under consideration, some will receive additional attention and support from staff to ensure that they're processed in a very, very timely way. And that does not mean, again, we're taking our eye off the ball in terms of senior needs in the community.
Thank you for that. I appreciate it. And I guess what I would just say is that, we need all kinds of seniors care facilities. If you look at, the Churchills and the Sunrises, from my understanding, the majority of them have wait lists. So as we look at the demographics of our community, we are going to need a lot more, both assisted living and independent living. So, I think while it's unfortunate that this hasn't worked for the Lynn Valley Legion proposal in its current form, I hope that they will find a way that we can see it through, because we do need, as I say, this type of housing. So I'll be supportive of the policy here, but yeah, again, I would just argue that we need more than just affordable assisted living residences.
Thank you. Just for my comments, I made the comments at the last time we considered this matter. Two big things. I don't want to be waiving public hearings when there's a significant change or that there's immediate neighbors of the very different zoning and use in those spaces. I do happen to think, though, I am willing to consider waiving public hearings in places where we're already well underway with development in those neighborhoods, and there's sort of a sense of the entire neighborhood is already under redevelopment. In those cases, I think there's a little bit less of a public interest as long as you're still following the official community plan in those spaces. But when you're talking about a one-off outside of a town center that's immediately around entirely different uses, then I think it's imperative on us to retain those kinds of mechanisms to communicate with the community. Really, the other piece here, and I don't want to be the big bucket of cold water on all of this, is what our actual ability to expedite is. With the vacancies that we have at the District of North Vancouver, with the challenges in our work plan within the planning department and engineering services, it's very hard to offer a marked, notable, fast track, as it were. I get the earlier we are in the process, then maybe we have the ability to tweak some things to move through. But the reason why we had it focused on public land situations, we were the applicant. We could change the applicant if our needs changed in those kinds of situations. So it was very easy for us to expedite when we owned the property and we were the applicant. In these cases, as you've seen with the development we're talking about, when it's a private development, what's in it can change at any given time, what's in the application, which makes it very hard for us to set it on a path because that application can be varied at any given point along the way. And so I don't know that it's the best opportunity for that. Having said that, I really do want to hear what the staff have to say about what potential we have to expedite and streamline projects that are of great significant interest to the community, such as what's listed here. So I will be supportive of this going forward, but when applications come forward, I'll be in a similar camp to Councillor Forbes when it comes to waiving public hearings. And I also just, that issue that an application, when it comes from us, it's unlikely to change from beginning to end that much. Generally, when we say we want it for this purpose, we carry that through. And with a private application, well, that's not always what ends up happening. And so, so I think it's going to be harder for us to expedite in those scenarios. But looking forward to seeing what staff come back with in that process. So I'll be supportive. Councilor Murray, second time.
Thank you, Mayor Little. Well, in the past, we have had the ability to not hold public hearings on council resolution. So it's not like the province has really done anything. They've omitted it from the legislation that it's not required. But through council resolution, we could have in the past not held public hearings. So that was already a tool ready for us. I too am in the camp that will not avoid public hearings. It's our quasi judicial role as responsible for land use. And I think it's important to be able to give the people an opportunity to come forward. We used to do it a lot more. COVID changed that, certainly. The communication within the community is not what it was. And I think we need to get back out into town hall meetings and facing residents, you know, in our gymnasiums and libraries, et cetera, and talking to them about what's going on. But again, I take your point that, you know, just because you want to speed it up doesn't mean anything will be sped up. And 16th is a perfect example. Close to 15 years, we've been waiting for a BC housing project to materialize for women-led families that are low income. Just because we zone doesn't mean anything gets built. There's a project in Maplewood right now. It's been flipped 3 times and it was rezoned 10 years ago. And they're just digging a hole, you know, presently. So, you know, developers want zoning. They'll decide when they move forward on construction. We can't force them to do anything. So I think that's another, you know, false sense of security that people have, that just because you get zoning doesn't mean anything is going to happen. That's up to the company that makes those decisions. And right now the market's slowing. The cost of construction is through the roof. And they're predicting loss of construction workers in the thousands in the next 20 years. So who knows what's going to happen?
Thank you. Councillor Forbes, second time.
Thank you. Thank you for remembering that at the July meeting that I had said, if we already had a priority list, so to speak, and a priority comes in that qualifies, does that bump the other ones? And so we sort of asked staff to respond to that, to give us an idea of if there would be that bumping going on, or would they come in at the bottom of the list and work their way up? So I don't know, can staff respond to that? Because that's some information we were asking about.
Your worship, application consideration is typically not just a pure conveyor belt. There's typically a series of steps where applicants submit documentation. It's then reviewed by staff and reviewed by external parties, which can be very lengthy. We have some applications that have been with us for 2 years without a BC Hydro design for the offsite works, for example. Some of those are supportive and social housing projects. So there are timing considerations that are impacted from external issues. Also, we heavily rely on applicants presenting materials which are consistent with council's policies and bylaws. So if the initial submission does not include, for example, confirmation of floodplain level and suitable engineered drawings, then those need to be presented and prepared by the applicant. So suffice to say, I'm telling a bit of a story in terms of it can be a bit of an iterative process in terms of an applicant's response to staff's clear indication of how to satisfy council's bylaws and council's policies. In some cases, applicants don't wish to do that. They wish to present something completely different. And we work very hard to push applicants towards preparing an application which is consistent with council's policies, so it has a highest chance of approval when it does come before council. There's also significant public engagement involved in the process. And again, that is an iterative process that we receive feedback from the public, and we ask applicants to respond to those comments so that when the matter does come before council, there are answers for council to those various concerns that might be addressed. What we do to try to prioritize applications that are currently supportive on social housing projects is we dedicate the staff time to ensure there is very timely response to all of the submissions that are presented to us. And we also have a project management approach where we work with the applicants, in some cases, especially when it's on district land, as partners to see the delivery of those projects. In certain cases, especially when there is district land, some items can be deferred, such as conditions that would normally be put on at the final reading can be delayed to the lease agreement, which is guaranteed because we own the property. Those are just a couple examples, Council. There's lots more I could go into, but essentially what it is a prioritized staff effort and staff resourcing to ensure there is timely response.
Thank you, Mr. Milburn. But what I'm saying is if a new application comes in and it's exactly like something that's already there, how will you determine the priority?
If there are two identical applications, they would be essentially in chronological order of review and the completeness of the application submission.
Thank you.
Okay, I see no further speakers on this matter. Prepared to call the question. All those in favor? Contrary minded? Motion carries with Councillor Forbes opposed. Okay, Council, thank you very much for attending to the reports this evening. We do have a little bit of time left for council members or the CAO to make any reports. Mr. Manager, do you have any comments? I have a few reports that I'd like to share. I mean, we've obviously had a long time since we last had a public meeting. I wanted to start by expressing my support for our American friends. Today is September 11th, and I know a lot of them are going through reliving a terrible tragedy in New York at that time. And so I want to just say that I mourn with the families that were deeply affected by those events, and we were deeply affected by them as well. My wife lived in New York right before that time, and actually she was a swing dance teacher up in the top of one of the towers. And so she, up until a little bit earlier in that year, was there a few times a week up at the top there. And so knew that facility well, knew people who worked in that building at the time that it went. And so we were deeply affected by it. It changed security in our country as well as around the world. And I think it, in many ways, also sometimes to the detriment of liberties that we've enjoyed. And so I did just want to pass on that September 11th will always be marked in our household as something we have to remember, the tremendous loss of life in those events. We were deeply affected. On a much more positive note, we have had just an incredible time over the last couple of weeks with the North Vancouver District Public Library, recognizing children who in our community made a commitment to reading over the course of the summer. We had over 3,800 kids that made a commitment to read at least 50 days throughout the course of the summer. And from that, and that is, by the way, the highest ratio of participation in the Summer Reading Club program in the entire Lower Mainland. And from that, the kids that completed the 50 days were welcome to come out to 3 separate events that we hosted with library in the community and come and receive their Summer Reading Club medal. And of course, I get all dressed up and suited and with the chain of office and everything. We try and make it as official and fun and formal for the kids as possible. And it was just so great. We'd ask each and every one of them as they come forward, what was your favorite story from the summer? And they all tell you, and you just see their eyes light up. Oh, it was Harry Potter book number 3, or it was, Captain Underpants, or, or the Babysitter's Club, or whatever it was that they were going through. And they just wanted to share with you their love of reading. So I'm so glad that we get to participate in that. I want to thank CUPE for being a sponsor of that program. And just recognize that it's a real win-win-win. We get to show our commitment to lifelong readers in the community. We get to support parents and give them an excuse to prod the kids to get back to reading. But in the end, I think our community is very well served by it. So I just wanted to tip my hat to the North Vancouver District Public Library for making those events take place, and for all of the parents who took a little bit of extra time to get their kids committed to reading this summer. The last day of that took place at Parkgate Community Days. And so we did regional recognitions for the Summer Club Reading Medal winners. But over this last weekend, we also celebrated the Parkgate Community Day at Parkgate Rec Center. Recognized, I think it's 24 years of operation of Parkgate Rec Center, and obviously a history and lineage from far beyond that in serving the community in other locations. And it's something that the community is very passionate about, coming out and supporting the rec center and the Parkgate Community Services Society that operates out of that space and manages that space. So it was great to get together with them, bring out all the community groups, and then also, of course, celebrate the kids for their great achievement and listen to the music and dance. It was a fantastic event. The last one I was going to note, we have an anniversary coming up, and I think it's something that people don't know a lot about, but we have in the first week of October will be the 45th anniversary of the skateboard park down at Sealand Park. That is the very first skateboard park in Canada. Our parks manager, Dirk Ustindi, at the time went on a trip down to California, and he saw these early skateboard parks and said, we got to have that here. And when he came back to North Vancouver, he fought and took money from different departments and cajoled and pressed everybody around until we got on board to actually produce a skateboard park. And that is the first one in Canada. It's recognizing 45 years. What we'd like to see, obviously, we have phase 2 of the Sealand coming forward in future years of funding, and I'd really love to do something big for the 50th anniversary to recognize that place in our community. But maybe we'll just do a bit of a comms birthday recognition this year. But it's an important piece of community heritage. I get it's a non-inventory, meaning it's not one of our buildings, but it's still an important piece for our community and for kids and for very grown-up kids if they started skating back 45 years ago. But Council, I see Councillor Back, you have a report to make.
Thank you, Your Worship. Did we just commit to a new skateboard park? Is that what I heard? All right, sounds
Nope,
good.
Signage.
Certainly, yeah, great piece of history here in the district. Just wanted to note a couple of things. Thank NVRC for the live and local concert series this summer. They were well attended, and I was able to attend the last 2 of them in Lynn Valley and then in Edgemont Village. I don't know if you know, but Councillor Pope has been a groupie of a band called the Paperboys going back quite a few years. She's got all the t-shirts and she's followed them all over. And now I'm one of those groupies. They're a fantastic band, and they played at Lynn Valley, and that was, as I say, very well attended. And then Adam Woodall Band closed it out this past weekend in Edgemont. Also attended the summer reading celebration medal presentation in Lynn Valley this past weekend. Impressive numbers. It was great to see. It was a very, very long line of kids, but it was awesome. Great spirit there. And then finally, just wanted to recognize that the Lynn Valley Community Association is putting on the Lynn Valley Family Fun Fair this Saturday, September 16th from 10 to 2, and Councillor Ma will be in the dunk tank, so make sure you go and hit him first. That's my report.
Perfect. Looking forward to that very much. Thank you, Councillor Back. Councillor Murray. Councillor Murray, you have a report?
Did Councillor Ma go in the dunk tank at Parkgate Community Days? You said you were. So you're really going to have to go to Lynn Valley because you. No, you weren't. I heard you were going. I also attended Parkgate Community Days on Sunday with the mayor, and great numbers for summer reading. We've always been way up there with our reading in the district of North Vancouver. So congratulations. I also attended, it was a complex event, but Heritage in the Woods, a new community that my family lives in, just celebrated their 50th anniversary of being one of the multiplexes in the district of North Vancouver. And although there was some, significant amount of investment put into those units about 10 years ago, I think it really does draw attention to these older buildings, these older complexes. They do have life in them beyond what we think. 40 years, I think the number is always put out there. And with some investment, you can keep them going much longer. One of the things that we noted was how many families are there and how many children are within the complex. And I think it's something that we really need to pay more attention to. Mayor Little, your comments in regards to, I'll say the Sealand Skate Park. Many years ago, we actually had one of the original members that played a role in surfacing the bowl and had come forward, and I've just come across that report among the boxes that I'm unpacking that I'll be sharing with staff going forward because it does need to be resurfaced. But over the years, there has been a call to protect it as a heritage site because it is the first one in Canada, and it's a bowl that doesn't really exist. The one at Griffin is similar, but it's something that we really do need to protect going forward and make sure that it stays there for generations to come. And your comments in regards to 9/11, certainly that was, changed the world, changed how we live. And, but I don't want to ignore what people in our own province have gone through with the fires this summer and the loss of homes. In the province, it's been excruciating. We've seen it before, we've seen it again, and we will see it into the future. I know wildfires, we had 2 ourselves this summer, and that were dealt with expediently by the wildfire service. Thankfully, I think there was 2 in Metro Vancouver as well within the park system. And I think the community is very heightened in regards to the fire threat. And I think, Mr. Stewart, I think council and the community would like to have a discussion about how we're going to deal with this as these occurrences become more, unfortunately, common. And maybe have those town halls where we can spread out through the community and go out and talk to our residents about what happens next year when we go through a drought like we're in right now. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Ma.
So just to clarify something from Councillor Back, there is a dunk tank at the Family Fun Fair, but I believe I'll be there in the morning and Councillor Back will be there in the afternoon. So if you can't make it in the morning, go in the afternoon and help out Councillor Back.
You don't show, I'm bringing the dunk tank right here.
Okay. On a second note, with it being back to school, there's some traffic safety sessions during morning drop-off at some local elementary school. I attended one this morning with Culver Mann, the chair of the Board of Education. And I believe Mayor Little, you'll be coming out to a few, like including tomorrow.
Brooksbank tomorrow as well. Yeah.
And I know with last year, Councillor Back and I went to a session at Canyon Heights, and there are some challenges at these schools when there's morning drop off and there's a big rush for about 15 or 20 minutes. The staff have been very good from the engineering and the planning department to come out to try to find a solution, but we're not quite there yet. And I think it's very important to kind of work with our school trustee partners and try to find a solution to some of these things. And it might be small things. Like one thing we do at Capilano is we work with the engineering department on when they have garbage pickups, not to come by the school between 8:30 and 9, like just drive around the neighborhood somewhere else and then come back. Like the small things like that will make a big difference in terms of the traffic flow. So those are some of the things that we're looking at. So just thought to report out on that. Thank you.
Very much. Councillor Pope.
Add my voice to the mention of Parkgate Day. It was fun and I was there and didn't see you, Councillor Murray, but I was there in the morning. I was there in the late morning, I think. Anyway, doesn't matter. It was a great event. And once again, I'm reminded of all the amazing services that the Parkgate Society provides in that community. And also, I really enjoyed the live and local that was put on around a couple of venues, one of which I saw Councillor Back at with his kids dancing away in Lynn Valley. Morgan, the daughter Morgan, was doing most of the dancing, which was really fun. And I just hope we can keep up doing these live and local events because they really activate communities and bring out the neighbors. And I just think it's a fabulous thing to do. So that's it.
Well, thank you very much, Council, for your reports tonight. Thank you very much for your diligence in preparing for this evening's meeting. I want to thank the staff for their preparation of the reports for Council's consideration, and obviously to the members of the public for taking an interest in their community and participating in the meeting. Everyone have a fantastic evening. Good night. Accepted adjournment from Counselor Murray. There you go. Accepted. There you go.